All right, we're gonna be getting into this. In the game versus
Good afternoon,
Basha Bear
everybody.
Esports and the Ironwood Eagles.
Yeah, it's true. Ready for another awesome game.
And on the team of the Basha Bears, we have a newcomer, the Tilted Gamer going to be playing for us. So, Aaron, please give a warm welcome to the Tilted Gamer.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm expecting some really, really great performances from these new players. How's your day going, Chewy?
My day's going pretty well. Looking forward to this game.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
excited to see what's gonna go down. I think it's probably a fairly even matchup, so it can go either way.
Yeah, I think so too. Either way, both teams are in the lobby, so once they get ready to start, we'll switch to the draft phase.
Right, it looks like we're about to get in here into the game versus the Basha Bears and the Ironwood Eagles.
Yeah, it does look like that. Super excited for this game.
Here we go, straight into draft phase.
So we are in the draft phase now.
And it looks like they're banning for the top lane on the side of the Basha Bears, pulling out that Shen really early. it's an interesting one because Shen's not usually a very highly picked champion, but however, it also is one of the main champions of a player on the Basha Bears. And there's the Yon Bam, spawned with a Volley Bear. Very top heavy bans right now, top side heavy. Not really going for those bot lanes. I think more priority towards those solo laners and the
Yeah.
jungle.
Well, a strong top lane is incredibly oppressive and incredibly, dare I say, unfun for the opposing top laner. If there's a bad matchup or just a really, really good top laner, it's really, really apparent when there's some kind of matchup difference or skill difference in the top lane. It's one of the most snowbally kind of lanes.
And they also
So
choose to ban the
kind of makes sense that they're banning a lot of top laners. Either way, it looks like the Eagles have also banned Yone and Twitch. So it looks like Yone, they're afraid of that mobility, the heavy AD damage, but also decent amounts of AP damage coming from Yone. And the
Yeah.
Aurelion Soul ban as well. Looks
Yeah,
like
the
they're banning
bans from
hit.
the Eagles here. They banned the Twitch, which is really hard to play around, especially because you have to. It's really reliant on good vision to play around a Twitch. So you need to have those controls up so you can know where he's going and how he's rotating. Because if he can catch lanes off guard on roams, then he can be very punishing towards the later game, especially when he scales.
That's true.
In the first
Well,
pick of the
Twitch can
game,
also be played on ADC or support because Twitch's ability to roam really easily makes him a very good support for acquiring vision control. But also playing it as an ADC, Twitch also scales incredibly well, just like you said, Charles. So Twitch is incredibly scary.
And
if
the first
you
pick,
don't know how to play
Ezreal
against
onto the bot laner here on the side of the Bears, going to play for that late game scaling matchup. Kind of a safer pokish early game. And then there is the Aatrox onto the side of the Eagles, which is also a hard scaler. Early game, you have to play around those Q cooldowns because after you use those, you gotta wait like 8 seconds before you're able to fight again, which is a big enough time window to take an engagement for the Bears and try and punish that top side.
That's true, but first pick top lane, it's always scary, about those counter matchups.
Yep. The Eagles here seem to notice the bans on the top side, so they pick both the jungler and the top laner. Likely, unless it's Sejuani support, but that is not very meta.
I don't think so. Looks like we
And
have
there's the
Vi
Vi.
jungle.
Vi is a super high priority pick, especially within different professional leagues right now.
Mhm.
Starting that Chempunk Chainsword on the Vi is super gold efficient with the stats it gives you.
That's true. What do you think, Josiah? So it looks like right now we have Vi jungle and Ezreal ADC on the side of the Bears and Aatrox top and Sejuani jungle on the side of the Eagles.
and looks like the Bears will end up picking Malphite as their jungle as a counter to the Aatrox. And the Eagles will be picking Annie as most likely their mid lane, which is definitely a really good pick. Not only makes the Malphite less useful as the Annie's AP, but also the Annie's able to land a alt on the Ezreal, then that can definitely shut down their ADC.
That's true. Annie is one of the most threatening burst mages right now. She recently got buffed to be basically more skill expressive and also deal more damage. So it looks like there's also a Xayah ban. Xayah is another extremely strong ADC right now. She has pretty good escape, pretty good skill expression with her ultimate ability, and also her positioning with her feathers. If it's a good Xayah, it's really hard to play against.
Yeah, good Xayah is easily able to peel and well, not really. She can peel for herself and kite, and she's really able to efficiently get damage out and force the enemy to constantly think about their own positioning.
And so it looks like there's a pretty good ban on this side of the Eagles with the Morgana Blitzcrank. Helps them stay safe with the Blitzcrank ban, and especially the Morgana, especially with them having Annie
I'm not
on
a
their
fan of
team.
the Blitzcrank ban. I think that the Blitzcrank would have to prioritize hitting someone like Annie. But all the characters right now on the side of the Eagles, a Blitzcrank is not that threatening, especially because even pulling the Annie, her burst damage is so high with the small amount of CC you have that you can't really chain without using high cooldown abilities like the Vi are or the Malphite are, so you'd have to waste a lot to try and get prioritized on that.
Yeah. Blitzcrank still is good for picks and their laning phase early game as well. You can get an ADC ahead pretty well. Let's see what the Bears pick looks like. They're playing into a Jhin. Jhin's pretty strong early. His fourth shot has really high base numbers for AD.
Yeah, especially with the new IE changes, allowing him Jhin to build Infinity Edge second item. His damage output compared to other ADCs is exponentially increased.
That's true.
Because he gains more AD as his crit and his attack speed or move speed and damage go up.
Yeah, Jin's very threatening. I'm not sure about the Jin pick into the Malphite though. Malphite's a very tanky character, and Jin might not have the burst damage to kill such a tanky AD armor focused character. But it does look like it is going to be an Ezreal Lux lane on the side of the Bears. That's an incredibly heavy poke lane.
And the Amumu response. The Amumu is really good into a lane like that. It forces. Well, they have to play around poke on the side of the Bears, and taking the Amumu Jin really gives that good engage and that good survivability to try and sustain against this type of lane. And you also have the engage potential in that lane makes it so you can easily shut down any walk-ups by the Ezreal Lux, and it makes them have to play much more careful.
That's true, but that also means that Ezreal and Lux are able to poke down Amumu and Jin. Because if Jin's half health, Amumu's half health, and Ezreal and Lux are both full health and have a decent amount of mana left, Amumu's not going to want to engage into that unless he has like ult and Jin has ult, and he's really sure he's going to win that.
Yeah, I think the real problem in that lane is Lux, because Ezreal's Qs can be mitigated by the wave, so if they just play behind. But Lux's E is basically a free to hit skill shot. You can't really, it's really hard to dodge that E if she can recast it right away, because it's free damage, and the Amumu will have to engage on the Lux before she can get too many of those E's out on either him or the Jin, which would make the lane almost unplayable for them.
That's true. This lane could honestly go either way. If Lux is able to successfully poke down the Jin and the Amumu, maybe get some kills from really far away, then it'll definitely help Ezreal scale in the late game. But Jin also scales incredibly well, and I believe his fourth shot also does missing health damage, which might be pretty good against the Malphite. So both
Yeah.
team comps look pretty good. Which one do you think is going to win team fights, Josiah?
I think it's really interesting for the team fight perspective. I think that on the side of the Bears, they definitely have really good with the Vi, Malphite, and Lux. They can definitely combo well. On the side of the Eagles, they do have Sejuani with her big ult, and you can definitely pick people out the ult, and of course Mu with his very large CC combo. I do, do
I
think
definitely see what you're saying.
I do think the biggest thing that will be interesting to see is how each team scales. On the side of the Bears, they have Veigar, Ezreal, Lux, who are definitely all really good scalers. And on the side of the Eagles, they have Jin, and he can definitely scale very well. But for the Eagles, it's definitely hard for the Aatrox to try to find some value here with people like Ezreal and Lux being able to have hard CC or escape. So interesting to see how they'll try to get on top of the Bears in this game.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't even thinking about the Ezreal and Lux ults. Ezreal and Lux are both able to try and steal objectives like dragons and clear waves with their ultimates. Their ultimates don't just have to be used to try and get kills, deal damage. They can also be used from a more like objective and wave focused perspective.
Yeah, you can go for more proactive control of the map with the ultis because they're both extremely long range. It's kind of punishing for the Siswani has to be more vigilant of cooldowns and the movements of both Lux and Ezreal in order to try and play around that when she's taking objectives. I mean, she has to have Smite up, otherwise there's a huge risk in taking objectives when one of them is up. However, I do prefer the engage on the Eagles because you both have the Amumu Q ulti combo, which is one of the biggest CC abilities in the entire game. And you also, the Sejuani R as well, but you also have the Annie burst. If Annie can get onto any of the squishy characters, which, depending on how Vi builds here, could also be squishy, she can burst them down with a single R WQ.
That's true. Anytime Annie has flash up, every one of the Bears is going to have to be extremely careful. The Veigar cage might not be able to peel that Annie off and make sure she keeps a good distance. Ezreal at least has a pretty decent escape with his E, but I think if Annie just flash Rs, I don't know if he can escape.
I also think they need to work with trying to punish this Aatrox early because this Malphite Aatrox lane was kind of an even lane, despite Malphite having abundance of armor in the later stages of the game. In the early game, Aatrox is actually able to trade efficiently with him unless Malphite just constantly gets Qs without a trade back from the Aatrox. So shutting down the Aatrox early would be really good for the Bears here. That way he doesn't scale into the later games, and he can become a huge powerhouse in those team fights with that massive amounts of healing and damage he's able to burst out if he's able to hit his skill shots.
Yeah, I think the same thing. All right, looks like Malphite has Teleport and Flash in response to Aatrox's Ignite and Flash. So that means Aatrox is definitely going to be trying going for early fights here, while Malphite's going to be trying to go for a more stay back and scale for team fights perspective, which makes sense for a Malphite.
Yeah, I think that's smart from the Aatrox trying to take Ignite here. You really rely on getting ahead early because later in this game you're not going to be able to duel that Malphite efficiently because he's going to have so much armor stacking with his passive on his W that Aatrox is going to try and fight early
And looks
and
like in
take
this
extended trades with that Conquer.
looks like in this early game, we'll see if either team will opt for the invade. Looks like both teams are grouped towards bot side, and both looking for invade. And it does seem like the Eagles may try to go for invader and the Bears invade at
Both
the same
teams.
exact time.
And both teams went for an invade on opposite or walking basically in a circle. However, you do see the arcane comment on the Vigar, which is untraditional. You usually see the electrocute to get that faster burst, or the phase rush so that he has better engage and escape abilities.
Well, one thing about
Um,
Vagar is that they actually increase Vagar's Q and W range, so maybe they're going for more of like a poke
Oh,
kind of
it does
idea.
look like the Bears have found out about the
yeah, I think
invade.
especially after those range reductions, going Comet on Vagar is a bit rougher because you can't hit that poke as reliably. You have to more rely on your hitting your E and landing stuns to be able to get that poke.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that was a good trade there for the Bears. They were able to get damage onto most of the members of the Eagles with almost zero punishment for them. So Annie will be down about 100, 150 HP here in the lane.
I see. So it does look like both teams are starting blue side. It looks like the Bears are pathing down to the bottom lane, and the Eagles are pathing to that top lane, trying to snowball and get that Aatrox ahead. Okay, so it looks like the Eagles do get that early push in the bottom wave. Oh, and also the top lane, so it looks like all lanes for the Bears are slowly getting pushed in. Malphite's just going for that Q poke with the Comet.
Yeah, I think this Annie in the mid lane is super strong right now, especially because the Q on the Annie allows you to mana reset if you lasted a mini with it, and that's the damage you're talking about that Aatrox is able to do in the early game. Later game, that's not going to be as much. So trying to play for the this early prio and being able to push this Malphite in without him being able to walk up much because you can punish him so easily with the amount of damage you bring out.
True, so it looks like both top laners are now level 2. Malphite took a little bit of damage there when he tried to fight the Aatrox when Aatrox was level 2. That's pretty risky to do early game because even if you have a bunch of armor, you're still level down. That's stats, that's a whole other ability.
And this like top lane's pushed in quite a bit, and the Alpha will be losing probably a little bit of CS as the wave is crashed under his turret, but for the first part of this early game, he'll probably want to try to stay safe under turret and farm until he can get enough armor up, until he can start fighting the Aatrox. And in terms of the bot lane right now, it looks like the bot lane's also pushed up a little bit, which in a way can be advantageous for the side of the Bears as they can just continue to poke them as they try to go for CS. So it'll be interesting to see if the Eagles still will be able to continue to push in, especially since they'll be continue to be poked out as they push in the lane.
So it looks like that ward that the Eagles placed early game in the tri-brush actually made it so they were able to walk away and not get ganked by the Bears via early game. Very smart ward from them.
And Mumu is engaging on the Lux here, but it looks like he won't be able to get much out of that trade, and actually they'll end up losing the trade. Oh, Vi is
And
headed
Vi is
bot
there for a
side.
gank.
Flash Q, and looks
Flash
like
Q
they
into the
will
gym,
get
getting the
2
first
kills.
blood.
Double
The
kill?
Ignite onto the Amumu, and the Vi ends up getting a double kill. That is huge. If you're able to get an early Chem Punk onto the Vi, she will be able to easily extend the leads of all of her lanes and even punish the Aatrox, who is playing super forward here, just getting poked out by Qs by the Malphite. And that's exactly what you want to. When I said you want to do avoid on the Aatrox, you need to be able to trade back damage. And there is a flash Q stun on the Vagar,
Oh, looks like
and a response by he flashes right into the Sejuani, and ends up dying to the Ignite.
and
See,
Malphite
if
is
Malphite had Ignite, they would have been able to kill him. However, Teleport does make it so Malphite has better tempo against the Aatrox.
It doesn't look like Aatrox is going to back here. He's scared of a crash, and there's a trade of flashes in the top lane threatening that Q.
It was close.
Yeah, Aatrox really needs to avoid taking Q damage without being able to
Malphite
to
definitely have to
give
be careful
damage
here
back.
as Sejuani is in the top
Well, you
side.
see, Aatrox still has Flash. Malphite now does not.
I think Malphite might end up falling because Sejuani is top, and
Sejuani is there.
Malphite
Malphite has
no
no
mana.
flash, no mana. If he gets caught here, that is a death.
And Sejuani is able to
Sejuani
get
is not able to kill him.
Not
One
quite.
auto would have done it. That was close though, punishing on the Malphite. He does have TP to get back in the lane, unlike the Aatrox, who just missed a whole wave that crashed under tower.
Mhm. So bot lane is currently pushed in. The Eagles have vision on the dragon, and Sejuani is topside. Vi might be going for a gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, if I went for the early oracles instead of the ward, to try and get that early vision control over lanes, especially when you're ahead. That's really effective because they can give you more gank prio. Trying to control the vision before the support will get an abundance in the bot lane, especially if you're trying to take your lead down there.
Very wise. So it looks like bot lane is once again pushing towards the Bears side, while Aatrox is
Like
trying to all in
is
the
all
Malphite.
and it
Yeah,
looks like
Aatrox
Aatrox is winning the fight right
doing
now.
that-
Aatrox does hit 6-2 before
See,
Malphite
Aatrox does have Ignite and Flash, so it is important for Malphite to be careful. Ooh, there's another fight in the bot lane. Jhin takes about
The
half his
root
health bar
onto the
damage.
Jhin really punishes him, allowing the Ezreal and the Lux to both hit skill shots on him for free with no repercussions because the Amumu is not able to go in there. He's blocked by the minions.
And then the top lane, Malphite is a little bit low. And even though he does, oh, it looks
Oh, and he
yeah,
might
Ignite
fall.
will
He gets
die
ignited and
here
will
to the
die
Q
to the
ignite.
Aatrox. Aatrox is just, compared to the Malphite in the early game, he is just so much stronger. And even in the late game, in these team fights, besides the Malphite R, he can be a lot more consequential with the damage output and even tankiness just because his bruiser type build. And there's a
Call me
pick
in.
on the Amumu who went in a bit too far there on the Ezreal, trying to zone for his Jhin, but kind of overextended.
And bottom left, to be careful as Sejuani is roaming down. It looks like they might have a ward, but bot lane is still quite low. But Sejuani looks like she will opt to take the blue buff instead of going for the gank.
Yeah, Ezreal did get his tier sheen, so he's a lot more stronger than, or he's a lot stronger than the early game he usually is. So he can kind of play more up because he's able to get more damage output than he used to be. And there's a gank in the top lane by the Vi, getting the Aatrox.
Okay, that's a kill on the Malphite. Very good.
Yeah, you really want to play for this top lane because that's going to be your toughest one. If the Aatrox is able to, he really needs to extend his lead here for the Eagles. Otherwise, it's going to be super tough playing against that Ezreal Lux.
I see. So it looks like Malphite might actually want to buy an early Bramble Vest with the gold that they have. Bramble Vest is very good against Aatrox, both because it gives armor and it cuts Aatrox's healing. Aatrox is one of the most strong healing champions in the game.
Yeah, he instead opts for the Kindle Gem. The Kindle Gem is super gold efficient. Just like Hamfang Chainsword, Kindle Gem gives both 200 health and 10 ability haste for a pretty cheap cost compared to what you're gaining.
And look, Malphite might be a little caught out here, staying a little bit long for the plate, but it looks like Malphite will be able to save with that move speed on it, on the Q.
Yeah, that Chem Jump Chainsword is also good for that anti-heal that you get in all the lanes when you're trying to go for any type of jungle gank. That way your laner isn't reliant on having to buy that himself. You're able to apply that within the gank.
Let's see, it looks like Aatrox is trying to fight Malphite while Malphite hasn't
Yeah,
backed.
that was really big for the Aatrox. Aatrox, just Malphite really just can only hit those Qs right now and can't really fight the Aatrox.
Yeah, the problem is that Malphite has a little bit of unspent gold because instead of backing and taking the reset, they instead decided to auto the turret, trying to get a plate.
And the miss by on the W and Q by the Aatrox. If those hit, that could have potentially been a kill, which has been really big for this top lane, especially because you have this type of wave crashing and there's no TP on the Malphite.
It looks like Fi is towards the bot side of the map, so it looks like Fi could go for a gank or could either try to gain some more control to take the Drake here. As bot lane is a little bit pushed up, looks like Vi is going for the gank here.
Yes, and there's and Annie does engage onto the
The
Veigar
Lux
mid.
does hit the
Might
root,
try
looks
to
like
trade this
they
out.
will be able to kill the Mumu here. And with that
Yeah,
being
this
taken,
aggressive lane is really getting punished here by the Vi, Lux Veigar, or Ezreal. A flash ignite onto the Veigar in the mid lane by the Annie ends up taking out the Veigar. Really tough lane to play against that type of burst mage. Even if you are playing another mage that has a lot of burst potential in the late game, Annie's burst potential throughout the whole game is just so strong and tough to play against.
Yeah, that's the problem with Annie. Annie's although Annie does have to scale in order to burst down a lot of targets late game, Annie I think still has a lot more damage than Veigar early. So as Veigar, you honestly just kind of need to stand back and CS with Q, try and place cages only defensively. It's kind of hard to make plays on Veigar early. First dragon looks like it does go to the Bears.
Yeah, there's the Amumu did build plated steel caps, which I'm not a big fan of personally. I think a Market Treasure would have been really good here, trying to avoid that CC so you can stay in the fights and try and peel for your damage dealers like Jin and Annie.
And as we saw, Malphite did end up falling to the Aatrox in top lane, which is not the best as his wave was pushing. So Malphite, Aatrox was able to get a couple plays on the top lane.
Vi did complete her 10 punch chainsword, so her gank and threat and even clear speed is just a lot stronger now. Can really do a lot of damage output onto these laners super fast. So they got to be very careful of Vi ganks and get vision in the jungle.
Is Annie like a good enough character to like solo carry the entire game? No.
Looks like Sejuani is invading Vi's Raptors, and Vi is going to opt to try and make some kind of play bot side.
It does look like it's going to be a Rod of Ages onto the Veigar here, going for a scale, even more scaling than he already has, instead of something like the Ludens or Leandries to get more damage up and on the tanks or try and burst a squishy.
I have nothing.
Okay, so what did Malphite buy with his newly spent gold? Looks like Malphite did not
Completed the stated
buy
pool caps,
gold.
which is I think really good into his matchup. You're trying to mitigate that, get that armor stacking, because that's really what you have to do to try and fight against the Aatrox. Limit the amount of armor damage he's going to be able to, but it does look like Aatrox might start Black Cleaver here, which is even worse for the Malphite. It's a really strong item right now, and there's an engage. They did not know the Vi was in the lane, and ended up falling in that engage. And the Herald is placed in the bot lane.
We see this could be very bad for the Eagles in the bot lane. The Tibbers does come out. Looks like besides the bot lane, it looks like all the lanes are currently pushed in for the Bears. Annie and Sejuani are both trying to roam upwards towards the Malphite, maybe going for a dive.
Yeah, they just use both ultis to try and kill the Jhin in that bot lane there. Neither of them connected, and it looks like they're going to try and dive in the top lane. The ulti out from the Malphite trying to kill the Aatrox. Ends up getting him with the tower shots. But he is traded back, and the wave is going to be pushed in by the Annie to crash it. So trying to make the Malphite miss more. He does have that TP to get back for the next wave. But he will miss this cannon wave.
I see, honestly, this game is pretty close. There's really not much of a gold deficit. It's 1.3 if I'm doing the math right, 1.5-ish for the Bears, but it could still go either way. Of course, one good team fight could easily turn the game here for either side. Looks like Annie's completed her mythic, giving her Ludens and more ability to burst down the Veigar. Veigar's going to have to be very careful because after building Rod of Ages, Veigar's really just playing to scale this game, especially with that tier as well.
Yeah, and there's the Black Cleaver out on the Aatrox. That even makes your 1v1s even stronger and kind of offsets that armor purchases from the Malphite, giving that health carve, which is super strong against playing into any tank matchup. A lot of characters like Urgot and Alawi often build Black Cleaver first too. Just playing against any tank matchup can try and offset that damage mitigation they get.
We can still see that Malphite is being a little bit tanky, be able to take some of the damage, and Vi is ganking top. Looks like the ult out they will be able to kill Aatrox here.
Yeah, the Vi's ganks this game have just been on point. All of her ganks have led to successful kills or objective control, and it has just been really consequential on the side of the Bears. He's trying to create a lead here with these Vi ganks. There's a flash attempt root, and there's the Sejuani gank bot. They didn't realize the Sejuani was here, and Vi was in the top lane. There's no response. She's going to go for the Herald, try and trade back that kill in the bot lane, but that is really good, given that a lot of the lead has come from the bot lane, and trying to mitigate what the Basha Bears bot lane has been able to accomplish so far.
Dude, how did that root land? Did you guys
With
see
3 of them
that?
bots, the Ezreal might have to give up turret here. He gets
Looks
get
like they're
hit
gonna
by
try
the
and kill.
ult
He
and
does get hit by the ult.
he'll-
He does end up flashing.
See a flash on the Ezreal. Ezreal's still pretty safe ADC, but without flash, he's significantly less safe as are all champions. So Sejuani might try and go for Ezreal again here.
Yeah, the Sejuani's playing really forward. He's gonna get poked out, and the Vi is coming bot lane. He might try and take a fight here against these the bot lane on the Eagles. The Vi is a lot stronger right now than a lot of the other characters on this. And there's a flash out by the Sejuani, trying to fight that Vi. Vi is just so strong. And then Amumu goes in, kind of gets himself out of position to get picked off here. Really rough game for the Amumu.
Yeah, this is a very hard lane to play for Amumu because Amumu just wants to fight all the time. But getting poked down by such long-range champions like Lux and Ezreal makes it really hard to play that kind of game. Malphite might be able to live through the ignite here.
And
Very
Aatrox does end
close.
up killing the Malphite. We can try and look at how much damage that's already carved. 213, which is a pretty significant amount if you think about it, given how long he's had the item.
See the
And
Veigar
it's
roam.
what it gets better as the tankier the champion is. And the Veigar comes up trying to get the kill, does manage to land his stun, but doesn't have the damage output to end up to kill the Aatrox at this stage in the game.
But it doesn't matter because they just walk in front of you. Oh, we should run. This way.
So Lux is currently alone in the bot lane. Perhaps going for a lane swap. Ezreal's holding down the fort mid lane. But it looks like Sejuani might want to try and shut down the Ezreal on the Bears side. We'll see Ezreal backs. Vi might try and make a 2v2 play here bot lane with the Lux.
And it does look like Veigar was able to get top turret, so that'll be the first turret of the Bears, first turret
Really
of the
good
game going
Jhin
to the
gets gonna
Bears.
hack. Oh.
Really good poke out there from the Lux. We need you to
No, it
land
does not
both
look
the
like
E and the R.
Aatrox knew that the Veigar stayed, and looks like they might be able to get a kill here on a Aatrox. That's an immediate kill right after.
And a waste of the ulti on the Sejuani, trying to save the Aatrox. Comes out a bit too late, and is not able to accomplish anything.
Okay, it looks like Annie's roaming up.
Looks like there might be a lane gate. Vi is there. Looks like the Paladins aren't aware.
Does miss the Q onto the Jhin, but it doesn't seem to matter.
Yep.
The Amumu has yet to use ulti this game. An ulti there could have potentially turned that fight around,
But
or
they
at
might be
least
able-
allowed them to trade with the Lux.
And they kill both bot laners.
That
And
was
with
very
also the
clean.
Vi having a hair, looks like they might be able to take a turret, maybe two, depending on what happens.
Yeah, that was a significant amount of damage that Anna just did onto that Malphite. Her burst is really starting to show, especially with the Ludens and the alternator there.
Looks like Veigar is TPing top, maybe to see if Veigar can get. Oh, Veigar is able to get the Annie and find the Sejuani now too with the cage. Looks like Veigar may be able to win this fight. We'll see what happens.
I wouldn't try to. You should
Yeah,
probably-
Sejuani is just gonna run away. Oh
And
wow!
Veigar is able to
Two
pick up
kills for
Sejuani
Veigar.
too.
That's very nice. Veigar gets a ton more AP with every kill. So that means that Veigar scales even
Yeah,
harder.
the Sejuani got a bit greedy there. She probably shouldn't have stayed that long, especially because she was running out of mana. There's no way she could fight that against the level 13 Veigar, who's 3 levels ahead of her. She probably should have just tried to run right when he got there, and
Ridiculous.
ended up staying too long and dying to the Veigar.
So the gold deficit's a little larger this time around. So it looks like we're about 4-ish K gold up for the Bears. But it looks like Aatrox and Amumu are now bot side. Aatrox is trying to mitigate the Ezreal's lead in any way possible, while Jhin is currently pushing the mid lane in.
Yeah, it's really tough to play the Aatrox into the Ezreal unless Amumu is able to get the CC for him. The engage on the Aatrox is dodgeable by and guidable by the Ezreal E, which can really avoid all the damage he's able to output and poke him back for nothing.
And Jhin is caught out here. Too far pushed up. Looks like they were able to kill the Jhin too.
Really catching out all of the laners here. Really good play by the Vi. The Vi is just roaming and constantly getting her team kills and trying to extend her laner's leads. He's participated in 2/3 of the kills here,
Yes.
and did build Radiant Virtue to try and really just play for her team in this game.
Yes, this Vi is actually one of the Bears' new players, the Tilted Gamer. So, very proud of, very new addition, so performing extremely well. Welcome addition to the team.
Yeah.
By the way, it looks like both junglers are now bot side, maybe considering trying to start some kind of Drake fight. I don't believe we have Drake timers on for the spectator
It looks
mode.
like they
However,
are fighting over Drake now.
looks like there is a fight around the Drake.
And this looks like the Bears are winning this fight. Sejuani will
Taking
fall.
the Sejuani. Maybe be able to pick the Amumu. Cease and desist the Vi ultimate, being able to catch that Amumu out, CC him so that they can do the last bit of damage to the Veigar there.
Yeah, the Amumu really is 0-7 here. It's having a really tough time trying to look for engages here, and so far behind at this point that his engage threat is not that threatening. You do have that CC, but Veigar he's not tanky enough to survive if he engages, compared to how strong the rest of the Bears are.
Yeah, I
You're
gotta
really
feel bad
looking-
for the Amumu here.
Yeah, you're really looking
because-
for the top side of the Eagles with the Aatrox, Sejuani, Annie.
I think Lux will die to Annie as Annie's able to hit the R.
Aatrox flash out of the cage. That's the sum down. Potential play threats onto the Aatrox, and that does reduce the engage, given you can Q flash.
While
Aatrox,
they're
which will
fighting mid,
extend
though, looks like
damage.
the Vi will be able to take Drake, and that will secure the Bears the third Drake of the game, putting them on soul point. So as the game goes on now, the Eagles will definitely have to look out and try to find a Drake to stop the Bears, or they'll be able to get this Hex Tech Soul, which will definitely boost their damage by a lot.
Yeah, not to mention the slow that the Hextech Soul gives is really good for playing against someone like a Jin, who recently has gotten changes that it just gives him move speed whenever he crits. So catching him out has become a lot tougher, because he's been a really good ADC to kite with, because he can just hitting a single crit allows you to just run.
So it looks like Lux is getting vision of the Baron. Maybe both teams might be going for some kind of Baron play sometime in the near future. So it looks like Aatrox and Malphite are both back top lane. Malphite might be just trying to make sure that the wave pushes towards the enemy tower.
Yeah, there you got 2 completed items on 3 of the members of the Bears, only 1 on the side of the Eagles. This gold lead is just slowly expanding. It's gone from about 4K to 5K in the
Looks
past
like
few
Lux
minutes.
and Ezreal are going to try to collapse on this Annie bot, but Lux will have to be careful for the R, and
There's that burst from the Annie we were talking about. Over Ezreal can probably catch her out, and there's a flash from the Annie to avoid the Ezreal. And she does manage to get away without getting punished for taking that Lux out super fast.
Yeah, well, it looks like the Annie did actually just use Flash there. So it's not like nothing happened, you know. Flash still got out. That still makes Annie both more vulnerable and less threatening. Because now Annie won't be able to flash on Ezreal or Veigar. So it wasn't like the Bears didn't get anything out of that. However, that is very unfortunate. The Bears couldn't secure that kill.
Yeah, the Eagles picked a draft here that's very focused on engaging with the Amumu Sejuani, and they really just have not been able to execute what they drafted, getting poked out constantly by the Veigar Ezreal Lux on the side of the Bears, and then every time they do try and make a play, the Vi is always there to respond to it, really leading the Bears to just getting a pretty extensive lead.
Yeah, see, that's why jungle is actually one of the most important and most impactful roles in the game, probably the most impactful, I'd say by a lot, because see, not only can you duel your own enemy laner, but you can also influence every other lane on the map. So you can see that the Sejuani played a lot around the Aatrox, trying to get the Aatrox ahead early, and now Aatrox is one of the stronger members of the enemy team. However, the Vi played bot side, trying to make sure that this Amumu couldn't ever engage, because they'd be engaging a 3v2 in favor of the Bears. So the Vi was able to successfully snowball almost every lane. Ooh, the Zanyas from the Annie actually saves her
Annie.
life there,
Oh,
but not for long. I guess
the
I should have
Veigar
said bought her a
scaled
little
enough
more
to burst
time.
down the Annie.
Looks like
End up
there's
killing the
another
Amumu
kill
too.
for the Bears.
The Amumu is still yet to ulti this game.
Yeah, looks like that was a pretty good
Like,
team for the Bears.
guys-
Oh, it's not over yet. The Vi flash Qs onto the Jhin and is still going. The Vi is just
Not
surrounded
able
by
to
the entire
kill
team,
the
just
Vi.
isn't
the Vi
going
is
down.
so tanky with that Radiant Virtue, getting the healing out and the damage output. Not able to trade for the
Oh.
Vi. So good for the Bears.
And
the
that will
Bear
be an
flash
ace
over the
on
wall
the
to kill the
side of
Jhin.
the Bears. That's a huge fight. Another thing I'd like to point out is if you saw the early interaction with Malphite and Aatrox, Aatrox seemed to not do much damage, if any, at all to the Malphite. Looks like Malphite's now at the point in the game where he's scaled up and he's too tanky to start taking damage. So I guess it's going to be the job of the Annie to do damage to the Malphite this game.
Where it doesn't look like Amumu will be able to defend this mid tower alone with the wave pushing in. But that's not even the main problem because Malphite is about to take this top tower, which gives 600 gold to Malphite. Malphite's going to get so much tankier, maybe even finish Thornmail there. Thornmail's a huge power spike for Malphite, both because of the armor it gives and the damage it gives that scales off of more armor.
Yeah, it's really tough to play here for the Eagles. They don't have really much to play against the Veigar and the Ezreal and the Lux. The damage output is so high, and even your tanks aren't able to tank that damage, especially against the AP threats. Your tank on Sejuani and Amumu have not built a single magic resist item. That Veigar damage is really starting to show here and is
That's
able
true.
to easily burst down any character or any
Also-
champion on the team of the Eagles.
See, Veigar is definitely starting to steal, both because now they're able to free farm waves with their Q, deal more damage, so it's easier to CS, more cooldown reduction, so it also is, more like it's faster to get stacks. Rod of Ages is fully stacked, gets a ton of AP, mana, and also health. And then that Archangel Step also gives more AP and a ton of mana. Veigar is definitely scaled incredibly hard this game, and with that teleport, Veigar's going to be threatening all around the map. You never know when he's going to show up. Looks like there's another fight in the top lane.
Yeah, now you see that armor really start to show in the map fight. Those trades just have not gone as well for the Aatrox as you'd expect them to. That armor carve does kind of make up for it, but the tankiness
Also,
is
like there's a bot
really,
fight over the Draken.
really-
Looks like the Bears are able to get the soul, and there's a fight. Looks like they're going to win this fight too. Looks like the Eagles just don't have enough damage to stop
They
the
did,
Vi
yeah.
or CC.
That Lux and Veigar there did so much damage, even to that Sejuani. That ulti did about almost a third of Sejuani's health bar, which is a really substantial amount. And not playing against these magic threats and only building armor is a mistake here, I think, by the Eagles.
Well, there's also that the entire team for the Eagles is currently dead, and Aatrox is opting to defend top tower, maybe trying to get a kill on the Malphite, trying to push top lane. And when currently the Vi is pushing bot lane and mid lane is being pushed by the Lux, and the Aatrox even gets solo killed by the Malphite. Personally, I think a better play would have been to try and defend either mid or bot, or just try and defend the base in general. Either way, it looks like
Aatrox
Veigar-
did go in favor for the tankier build on the Aatrox. I'm not a big fan. I actually prefer the lethality build. You might be a little more squishy, but you do still have that lifeline shield on the Eclipse. But you're able to do more damage output, which you're really lacking right now. But given how behind your bot lane is, your only real damage threat is the Annie. But the single target burst isn't enough to win these team fights.
That's true. Annie is more able to play around picks. Let's see if Annie can burst down Malphite. That's true, so without any magic resist items, Malphite is still able to get killed by Annie when they're at half health.
Looks like Lux and Ezra will be fighting the Annie and Sejuani. Annie does not have ults here, and looks like there's just too much damage on the side of the
Tibbers
Lux
is already
Ezreal.
away.
And they will end up getting that
They
easy double
cannot
kill,
play
which will
around
allow
that
them to
poke
take
damage.
Baron
It's
2
really
pretty
significant,
easily.
punishing them here.
See, so it looks like the Bears are currently pinging for Baron. This could be the end of the game here, friends. So if the Bears are able to get this Baron, which it looks like they will because the Sejuani is dead and doesn't have smite for this, unless Aatrox and Amumu try and steal it. Unfortunately, you can still smite
there
through
is a
stuns,
control
so
ward,
Amumu will not be
controlling
able to
that
secure
vision
this
in the
objective
pit.
for the Eagles.
Very limited here on the play potential for the Eagles. They do not have a jungler up to try and take this. So any attempt is either gonna it's gonna backfire either way. I think this is gonna be the lead at the end of the game. They can take the Baron and push lanes, and then even if the Eagles tried to take that, they would have lost the fight and ended up losing anyways, losing the Baron and the lanes. just you got to try and hold on here for dear life because it's not looking good
Yeah.
against the Bears. The
This
Bears
is
with
definitely
the
a
Baron buff
terrible.
can likely just go all 5 mid and end up winning the game.
So with this many enemy, because I believe all of the Bears have Baron buff, isn't that correct? I think all of them were alive when Baron was taken, so that means they can push every lane at once. Um, looks like everyone but the Malphite has a shutdown right now. Vi hasn't died a single time. 6-0-13 has 3 items. Very good vision control from the Bears. There's no one with below 15 vision score. Um, Meanwhile, the Amumu on the Eagle side still only has 15 vision score and hasn't bought Sweeper yet.
Yeah,
But it
those
does look
early
like
ganks by the Vi really put like a huge lead on that bot lane.
And if we
The
just look at
Lux
the
and the Ezreal are both huge threats because those early ganks by the
and
Vi.
look at just the gold towers, Bear and Dragons. The Bears are up in everything now. Over 11k in gold. They have 6 Turrets to 0, 4 Jacks and none, a Baron. And even look at this fight
huge
here.
team
Let's
fight.
not look like there's anything that the Eels can do to stop the Bears.
Completely ignoring the tower. The Vice is able to heal off all that damage, even break the tower using the Radiant Virtue. The Amumu does have Bramble Vest to counter that healing, but unfortunately it's just not enough to counter the Vi healing.
Yeah, Amumu got it way too late. At this point, Amumu is really not strong at all. Nothing really threatening about the Amumu's kit. And there's no damage output on the Eagles to even try and fight against a 3v5 on the Bears.
So it looks like this will be the end of the game. I don't know if the Eagles will be able to resist this push. They just got ace. It doesn't look like the Eagles are going to have enough manpower.
And this is going to be the game. A little bit of a
TP from
BMTP
Veigar.
by the Veigar. Really nicely played there from the Bears.
Yep.
Bringing the
Vi was
score
able
to 1-0 in the Bears lead.
That was a good game, guys. So, what do you think was the main deciding factor for the Bears in that game?
All right, hopping into the draft phase here of game two. Eagles have the first ban in this scenario.
And we'll probably be seeing some bands like the Vi, as the Vi did very successful last game. So that's definitely a very possible ban. This is
The
an
Twitch ban
interesting.
out again is really scared of those roam potentials. I think a Vi ban would actually be smart given how consequential the Vi was on the Bears' first game.
Let's see. Could it be possible that there is no Yone ban? Is it possible?
The Nami ban.
Is a Nami
Oh,
ban?
they are scared of the. I don't think they're gonna. They might not end up banning the Vi, given that they did sub the Vi player out for. Oh wait, they did not sub the Vi player out. So Vi is still a threat here. I think a Vi ban would be very smart. You don't
Yeah,
want
I
to face
believe, if I'm
the
correct,
same type of bot lane you did last game.
I believe they subbed out the entire bot lane, the Bears. So now, instead of being, um, yeah, either way, we have a new bot lane.
Yeah, there's still both the Bears and
And they
the
do
Eagles are
end up
banning for
banning out
opposite sides of the
that
map.
Yone, who, from my
Okay,
insider
there's
source, I know is the one of the mid laners' possible best choices, and they will end up banning Xinjiao again. So it looks like the bans for the Bears are very similar. It looks like they're still scared of that top jungle threat.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. The bot lane for the Eagles last game really was not able to create a lead at all and got snowballed on pretty early in the game. So they're gonna end up trying to ban for that top side where it was much more threatening with the Aatrox in the early game and the
And
Annie.
they will be picking Garen in the top lane. Garen is definitely a good bruiser slash juggernaut, but it'll be interesting to see what the Bears will pick, especially with Garen top. For the first pick top, it can be
Yeah,
very easily countered by a range.
not to mention Garen has really good ability to duel with, especially if he takes Ignite. That Ignite ulti combo is really threatening with the amount of true damage output that has onto any type of
Yeah, I
laner.
guess you could say that's true, haha, true damage. Huh? The one thing I'm worried about is that Garen is actually incredibly counterpickable for things like Vayne. It looks like the Bears did pick Mordekaiser, so Mordekaiser and Garen both love those extended trades
Yeah,
because Garen spins and he spins his sword around light. And Mordekaiser, when he hits 3 of his abilities, he gets that fog around him that deals damage over time, and it's max health magic damage.
yeah. I actually think this matchup is in favor for the Garen, especially on that level 6. The Mordekaiser ulti is not enough to offset the damage gain for the um the Garen ulti, and the spin is just a lot more damage on it than the passive on the Mordekaiser. Plus, you have that silence that can really stop the Mordekaiser from being able to effectively use his Qs, which he has to constantly stack throughout a fight in order to maximize the amount of damage he does.
I think we also need to think of the maybe slight possibility of Immortal going to jungle, but it will look like he'll probably go top, but we'll still have to see what will happen for the Bears here. And on
And
the
a
side of the
Bel'Veth
Eagles, they
Fizz
pick
on the
Bel'Veth
Eagles.
and Fizz. Bel'Veth is definitely a very strong new jungle that's come out, especially with their high attack speed and sustained with their E. And Fizz is will be a very strong assassin, especially with the Caitlyn. Fizz is looking to get on top of that ADC and possibly support if the support goes in mage again.
Yeah,
See,
Fizz
one
Fizz is a tough. I mean, in the late game, any type of squishy playing against Fizz is tough, especially because he can dodge types of CC. So the
Mhm.
Caitlyn Lux and other types of CC champions made to try and deal with these carries are a lot less effective. But you do have that Caitlyn Lux really pressure bot lane on the side of the Bears.
That's true. One good route from that Lux, and that could turn into a Caitlyn trap, and that could turn into dying. So I would say the Eagles have to be very careful here. One thing I do like on the Eagles, however, I do like Bel'Veth. I feel Bel'Veth is a very flexible pick because you're a jungler that wants to get kills. You scale really hard, and also you do a lot of AED damage. So even if your bot lane doesn't win like it did last game, you still aren't completely out of AED damage. But it
Yeah.
does look like the Eagles banned Vi again. They do not want to go
What do you
through
think about the
that.
potential Rammus pick here by the Bears? I think Rammus in this matchup might be good.
I do think I do like Rammus actually because Fizz is an assassin, right, and that's their AP damage, and it looks like that might be the only AP damage. And see, Rammus just as a tank also builds health, and assassins have just a hard time dealing damage to people with that much health. So Rammus might be able to itemize against everyone but the Fizz, and that bonus health that Rammus gets from building armor items might actually also help against the magic damage that Fizz brings to the table.
Yeah. I was just thinking because Ramus here into this
Yeah.
Bel'Veth Garen. Bel'Veth really is like a heavy auto attacking character. The Ramus' Thorns damage I think I've said it before in the stream, but it is no joke. It
Exactly.
is it is it is threatening. Unlike Nashor's, that is not threatening.
Nash's Teeth Ramus. Yeah, that was actually
And
going to bring
then
up. Great
the
idea.
Garen also does AD damage, which is mitigated given that he doesn't attack directly
and
very much.
looks and
There's a Talon pick on the side of the Bears.
You see Talon.
it's a
So you see, the thing is, I'm less worried with the Talon pick on the Bears side because you see, although that's probably the mid laner or maybe even the jungler, I think the Bears still have a good mix of both AD and AP
Yeah,
damage. Mordekaiser naturally does a lot
I
of AC.
still really love the Ramus pick if that would come up from the Bears.
I think so
and
too.
I definitely think it's an
Given
interesting pick on the side of the Bears to go to town, especially since Talon may probably assassinate Zaya, but as the Fizz has Elon escape, and Bell is very good in the duel. It'll be interesting to see how the Talon will give out, especially with this now Morgana pick, especially with that high CC with the root and the pool.
yeah,
Interesting to see how this Talon can
I don't
give
know. I'm
out.
not a big fan of the Talon pick. His assassination threats aren't that scary because the Zaya's R and Kiden ability is a bit much, and it's hard for the Talon to get on top of her, especially if he uses his W before
Yeah,
he's able to get on top. And the Wukong pick. Wukong is a super strong character, one of the strongest junglers right now.
that's true.
Um, or you could even play it in the top lane, play Mordekaiser jungle, but that's less threatening. But Wukong, able to both shred armor and kind of play around that clone and
Yeah.
kind of double your abilities up.
And it'll be interesting to see how they choose these flex picks because it's like Wukong could either go top or jungle, Mord could go top or jungle, and Talon could go mid or jungle. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bears choose to pick who and what role. But
hmm
if I were to guess, it'd probably be Talon mid, Mord top, and Wukong jungle this game.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this Wukong might actually might build Radiant Virtue again, as jungle, assuming that the Wukong is jungle. That would give Wukong incredible team fight pressure because Wukong's ultimate ability does so much damage, as you said, Charles. Shreds that armor, gets a huge knockup in a gigantic area, and with the Radiant Virtue healing, Wukong would also be able to heal all of his teammates and be tankier. So I'm liking the Radiant Virtue angle from Wukong.
Yeah, I'm not sure though. Radiant Virtue on Wukong, you're kind of given losing some of your team fight ability and damage in order to try and play support for your teammates.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, quick reminder, Basha will be red side, so that means they will be on the top right part of the map. So although they were in the bottom left, and then the top lane went straight up, and then the bot lane went straight right, this game, it looks like Basha will be going straight down for the bot lane and straight left for the top lane.
And I think definitely probably the most important matchup of this game will probably, in my opinion, I'd say mid lane, just because of the fact that even though on the side of the Bears they do have that Lux with the high CC, I feel like the Fizz if Fizz is able to dodge that initial CC, there isn't that much CC on the there's not much hard CC on the side of the Bears to stop a Fizz just going into the back line. I'm wishing to see how this Fizz matchup will go, and the Fizz does end up being failed. But definitely be hard on the side of the Bears to find a counter to this.
yeah, the Fizz is going to be a really tough one to play against. I do think they have enough CC with the Lux, Caitlyn, Wukong, and then the Mordekaiser E. There could be a bit more, especially with the Talon pick, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it could work, especially trying to play against something like Morgana, because Morgana's spell shield is really good against AP, assassins, and Talon can offset that spell shield trying to play against that.
So I ask this every time, but which team here do you think is going to win team fights?
I do like the Bears team fight a little bit better. The dueling on the side of the Eagles is really strong, especially with the Belveth, Garen, Fizz. I think the Mordekaiser's goal is going to have to be to take Fizz out of the fight because Fizz is a huge threat. But the problem is that means you rely on Wukong to frontline, which he could build Radiant Virtue, but I think it's more realistic for him to build something like Divine Sunder that gives him healing and damage. That way he can stay in the fights longer and try and duel with that Garen Belveth in the front line.
I can see that. Anyway, so looks like it might be hard for the Bears to get picks this time around. Like you already said, Zaya is hard to pick because of her ultimate. Morgana also has her Black Shield ability and her hard CC with her root and her ultimate, so it's gonna be really hard to jump on her. She can make it so her teammates are also hard to jump on. Fizz can dodge abilities. Belveth has decent mobility. Garen has increased tenacity just in his kit. It might be incredibly hard to get picks this game for the Bears. So I think they actually might have to play for those team fights.
Yeah, as I said before, Mordekaiser really, I think, has to alter that Fizz. because the team fight will fall apart if Fizz is able to get onto the back line, onto the Kate and the Lux, and get him out of the fight early, which he's easily capable of doing, even multiple people, unlike the Annie. He does have that potential to burst more than one target, because his ulti and his dodge ability are both able to do damage to multiple targets.
Okay, so we're getting into the game now.
And as you look at the summoner spells, looks like
There is a phase rush on the Garen, which is really unorthodox. You'd think he would go the Conqueror, give him that dueling potential, or make his dueling stronger, but the phase rush is really interesting.
And the face rush does give the Garen a lot of movement speed and like ability to roam, so it'll be interesting to see what he does there. It'll also be interesting to see the top lane matchup, especially with Garen with that ignite. It does not look like Mord will have too much pressure in terms of fighting, but Mord does have the Conquer versus the Garen having a face rush, so that could even out the matchup.
Yeah, and you do have a Glacial on the side of the Morgana, scared of that damage from the poke with the Caitlyn Lux. However, Caitlyn Lux are both have relatively safe runes. No ignite on the Lux, which could have been really punishing given how poke heavy their runes are. And you do have the cleanse on the Caitlyn, which is smart into a scenario with Fizz and Morgana, where you are going to be the focus of the burst.
Mm-hmm. So looks like neither teams are going for an invade this time around, but both are definitely watching to make sure the enemy doesn't. Looks like the mid laners are both going to start heading to lane because they don't want to miss out on that first wave.
Yeah, no proactive game play here in the jungle, unlike last time, where they both attempted to invade but ended up walking in circles around each other, and they're just going to stay in their buffs, which I think is smart, given that neither team really has a super strong level one. I think the Bears is a bit stronger with that with the Lux Caitlyn, really able to do damage from afar, especially if Lux takes Q first, but that does put your lane at a deficit if you're not able to gain anything on that, because going that poke early or at first level does make a difference in the lane being able to play
Yeah, that's
up
true.
against you.
So both junglers are also starting bot side, heading up top side, definitely trying to snowball either their Mordekaiser or their Garen.
And Garen fighting level 1 here. Potentially, that could have potentially been winnable if he took Conqueror, trying to take an extended fight like that. Instead, he's going for those short
I
burst
definitely
trades,
think
running away with the phase rush.
I think the Garen is definitely going phase rush, both for the lane, so that Garen can essentially hit 3 abilities in the same time Mordekaiser can hit 3 abilities, and then get out before Mordekaiser's fog really has a huge effect.
A level up here on the Garen. I don't think Mordekaiser wants to fight this.
And that's
Especially
really,
given the Garen has Ignite, giving him that 1v1 advantage.
and that's an extremely good trade for Garen, getting that level 2 early and getting a lot of damage. And that's especially important, seeing as both junglers did start bot side, so as they roam to may possibly take this scuttle, it'll be interesting to see which lane will have bot power when that time happens.
Yeah, and there's that Fizz dodging the W there on the side of the Talon. A bit of an even trade standing in that wave.
See, looks like Fizz has a potion.
Yeah, the burster on the Talon is threatening for the Fizz early game before he's able to get the ability haste in order to, effectively kite most of the skill shots and abilities on the side of the Bears. Really playing for that late game, especially with Belveth, who has to stack attack speed with her ulti, and Azaya, who really needs level 6 to play
Let's
against.
look at top lane. Both are trying to go for Scuttle. Wukong is engaging on the Belveth here, but Garen is the first to roam down.
Garen is there for the roam. There's a silence onto the Wukong. Wukong does get ignited, ends up dying to the Belveth with the dash.
And that'll be first blood on Belveth on the side of the Eagles.
Good poke out on the Morgana there by the Lux, hitting both the QE. Yeah, getting these early kills on the Belveth is big. Really needs to see getting that bonus attack speed that you wouldn't normally get early can increase your clear and make your ganks more threatening.
So looks like top lane Mordekaiser is currently trying to get a slow push going. Trying to make sure Garen can't really fight him in that wave, just trying to farm.
Like,
Another
Fizz is trying to
trade
take a
Fizz
fight with the
playing
Talon.
up
Talon,
under the wave.
but Fizz is taking a lot of damage from
Does
the
take a
wave
lot of
and
damage.
bleed. Wukong
And
is
there's the
ganking
Wukong here
mid.
to respond. Looks like he might try to trade. Does get the Ignite off on the Talon. And the Talon does not end up falling. Gets the Conqueror stacks and lives, killing the Fizz.
That's a very good level up for the Talon, able to survive the Ignite because of that kill on the Fizz.
It does seem as though the wave on Fizz might be crashing too. Which I guess kind of is fine for the Fizz, even though he's not going to lose as much wave as he normally would. And there's a crash on the Talon, pushing that back.
So it looks like the bot lane's actually playing. Neither side is really getting pushed in. It's kind of staying in the middle of the lane, so neither side is really able to run the other down.
Looks like for now the bot lane
Play-
is just going to be trading poke back and forth. In terms of the top side, looks like Mord is now pushing the Garen, and it looks like as they're coming more even in levels, Mord's able to take some better trades, especially with that Conquer.
Yeah, without the Conqueror here on the Garen, it is really tough to take an extended trade with this Mordekaiser. That Conqueror will start kicking in and end up killing the Mordekaiser a lot more than you'd think it would.
And bot lane might need to be a little bit careful, a little bit pushed up, and Bel'Veth is bot side. Even though the Morgana is low, they are very prone to gank here. Looks like Lux does try to get vision, and Bel'Veth is just there. And Lux flashes. Bel'Veth responds, flashes over the Q. That's a good flash by Bel'Veth, and Bel'Veth's able to secure the kill on the Lux there.
Unultied by the Mordekaiser onto the
Mordekaiser
Garen.
now
Garen
fighting
does
in the
not
Death
have
Realm.
Ignite. Oh, it's not looking good. Without the Conqueror, he's not able to trade into that Death Realm and ends up having to flash. And a flash
Ooh.
Q on the Mordekaiser, getting that isolation damage, end up killing the Garen.
That was a very smooth play from Mordekaiser.
And also because of the kill on the Lux, it looks like the Eagles do have bot prowess and are able to take the Draco. It's interesting to see if maybe Wuha can go for a steal or try to contest.
Yeah, Wukong does have a level up on that Bel'Veth, who has ganked. Wukong has traded that for clear, and Bel'Veth doesn't look like she's going to even be able to take this by herself. Needs the roam from the Fizz and the Xayah here to help take it, and they will end up getting that. And the Bears were unaware that that was being taken.
So Mordekaiser backs. What's Mordekaiser out to buy with the new kill? Looks like a blasting one. I think this is going to be a Riftmaker or maybe a Rylai's Rush Mordekaiser. Can't really tell
Yeah,
right now.
you do see the first build of the Berserker's treads on the Garen, going for that attack speed early. I think maybe going for something like the wind. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an item that gives you 10 attack speed.
Trinity Force.
What's in?
No. It builds into Stridebreaker and into Trinity Force.
Oh, Iron Spike Whip, or is it the Hearthbound Axe?
Heartbound Axe.
Okay.
Yeah, giving the attack speed on the autos, or giving the move speed on the autos plus the attack speed and the 80, I think is more consequential for lanes like the Mordekaiser one.
Yeah, Garen's very good with Hearthbound Axe because kind of like Phase Rush, kind of like Ghost, allows Garen to really stick to his targets, make sure that you can't really escape. So if he gets on a bot lane person like a support in ADC or a mid laner, you know, it's really hard to escape Garen when he has that much move speed.
It looks like all the lanes on the side of the Eagles are being pushed in, which will make the Bears more susceptible to gank, but as of right now, it doesn't look like Bel'Veth is in the position to gank. And also, if you think about the top and mid, top side, they have the Mord ult, so it will be hard to take a fight, especially Mord can just death throw. And mid lane, the Town has a lot of movement, especially with his passes, so it'll be kind of hard to lock them down.
Yeah, you have level 6 onto the Xayah. Making those ganks, if you were to take it into the bot lane, much harder to execute on. The Xayah 6 is really good at dodging these CC and these damage bursts that you are really reliant on in a Lux Caitlyn bot lane.
Alright, so it looks like Bel'Veth is going to try and take the Rift Herald. That's actually very good for Bel'Veth specifically because Bel'Veth gets to push waves way harder when she has the Rift Herald because of her passive, I believe is what it is.
Yes, Belveth when she is 6 and able to get her coral on the ratio she's able to get empowered these minions that spawn to help push waves.
Yeah. It's just really tough for the Wukong here. All the lanes have been constantly pushed in, really making it hard to find ganks and try and snowball a lead.
Looks like Belveth is heralding
There's a
top.
Herald in the top lane, and you can see those minions creating an army here that only extends as more minions die.
And I don't think there's gonna be a dive, but especially that Herald's gonna especially relieve a lot of pressure for the Eagles off the top lane as they were to get it low early.
Solo plate gold given to the Garen, and there is a gank finally by the Wukong onto the bot lane. There goes out the ulti, and the ulti from the Morgana trying to respond. And finally is able to find some play on the map, given how pushed in these lanes have been. A little overextended there by the Eagles. Knowing that Belveth is the top side, you won't be able to get a roam to respond to that gank.
Looks like the Belveth does want to stay top side and get some more of the minions to spawn and see if they can get a little bit more damage on this top turret. And it looks like because Belveth is top side, the Wukong is roaming and has gone into Belveth's jungle and taken a lot of camps. And it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the Herald was recently nerfed, so it does less damage to towers. It only does about 1.5 platings instead of 2 platings.
Oh, really?
So the taking Herald is a lot less beneficial than it used to be. And there's an engage onto the Talon mid, and Belveth responds, comes in. Talon does try to ult to get away. He might get over the wall and ends up dying to the Fizz.
Solid effort.
And that looks like might be a little bit of an inopportune death on the
Either way,
side
so it doesn't
of the.
look like either side is particularly winning over the other right now. Mid lane looks pretty even, only a 7 CS difference. Looks like bot lane is also pretty much the same, 0 kills for both sides, but there is 1 assist for both sides.
And there's that Ignite ulti play up on the top side from the Garen. Does a lot of damage if you can get both of those abilities out. The true damage is no joke.
It looks like Belveth is roaming down, and Belveth might be able to kill the.
Might be able to catch out the Caitlyn here. Oh, Caitlyn ends up trying to ulti, trying to pick off the Morgana, but ends up hitting the Belveth right in front of her.
It was a solid effort.
And with that kill on the Caitlyn, looks like they will be able to secure the second drag possibly because they do have bot and mid power. No, the Fizz did just back, so we'll see if
there will be no potential to take it. There is no Lux ulti, and Wukong is on the top side, so that is just a free Drake for the side of the Eagles.
And this Garen's just getting a lot of plates top side. Fed Garen is pretty scary, especially if you're very weak. But even if you're pretty tanky, because when you're tanky, that true damage from Garen's ultimate still is no joke, especially because it scales off of missing health, right? So, you get below half health, Garen just ignite Q and then R's you and then you're dead. It's definitely a threat.
Yeah, and now you have the Heartbound X. He is going to be building that Strike Breaker, just stacking move speed with the Phase Rush, which is not really a common build, but that move speed, you can easily chase down characters like the Talon who have that good escape. So I can see the benefits of building it.
Yeah, makes sense for me. Yeah, Garen with Stride Breaker. The thing is with that is that if he wants to fight you, he's gonna fight you. If he gets on top of you, you're not getting out unless you either kill him or die. Because, he reduces your move speed, he gets so much move speed, especially Phase Rush. He has Flash up, there's no way you're not getting Flash ulted if he has to.
Yeah, because he's building the Stride Breaker likely into something like a Mortal Reminder.
Oh, looks like another
healing.
2v1 jungle fight.
And there's the Fizz dodging that damage on the Talon ulti. That's the strength of Fizz, able to dodge the burst and the CC that he needs to.
See, the Belveth is looking pretty strong. The scary thing about Belveth is that Belveth also scales with every kill, like even harder than every other champ. Especially when she gets her ultimate form, that makes her incredibly powerful.
Yeah, Belveth is going to be a real tough champion to play here in this game, or to play against in this game. She's already gotten 3 kills, being uncontestedly being able to stack attack speed. And it's going to be really tough to try and play against that, especially when you have a Mordekaiser who's going to take someone to the death realm. So these team fights, you really rely on
going for
someone
an
like
all in,
Wukong
and
to front
Fizz
line,
is
and that
able to
makes
get
it
the
much tougher.
on the Talon there.
She was very smooth and quick from the Fizz.
Looks like
There's an
Mord is
ulti
ulting
by
Garen
the
looking for
Mordekaiser
the
onto the
fight.
Garen.
But as with the again with the phase rush in the
That
berserkers,
speed, you
able
can
to
see it
dodge most
easily able to kite
abilities.
out the autos and the Qs by the. Yeah, and there's an ulti by Desire, not able to get her feathers in an angle, and gets her feathers in an angle. The pull on the Caitlyn ends up pulling her, taking her
And
out.
Wukong is there
Wukong is trying to come
for
down
the
to
gank
clean up.
though, but
And
Belva's is
Belveth
there
is there
for
to
the counter.
respond. Not able to get anything here on the bot side.
You see Mordekaiser. I believe Mordekaiser does have Rylai's. Can we check that? Yeah, it
Yes,
does
Mordekaiser
appear that
does.
Mordekaiser does have Rylai's. That cuts the Garen speed down a decent amount. And also, once Mordekaiser gets his smoke up during team fights, he'll slow the entire team, playing more for a team fight kind of perspective.
Yeah, it's really tough here though, because especially because the Garen ended up going phase rush, it's a lot harder to get on top of him
was
than
a
it would be
very-
if he went Conqueror.
A
So,
very flashy fight mid lane. Both sides play that very well. Talon.
and
comes
yeah,
out
and
the
Talon
door.
is coming up top on the 1v1 in the mid lane. The Fizz's burst isn't enough to really threaten any, or threaten the Talon, Wukong, and Mordekaiser at this stage in the
And
game.
Belva looks to be caught out here. But
Might
with
end up
all
falling the
Belva's
dashes, allowing her to get away. Wukong is going to stop pushing, doesn't want to overextend, and end up dying to a roam up by the bot or the mid laner.
and it looks like the Garen is gonna start the Rift Herald, and Belva will probably end up roaming up to get the coral and the buff minions.
Yeah, Wukong not going to go check the Rift Herald. Doesn't aware that Garen is on it, going instead to go clear his jungle camps.
So it looks like the bot lane actually might be setting up for a Drake, trying to get vision. Drake all those control wards, play some wards of their own.
Yeah. Oh,
So
and there's
Bears
a
are currently
pinch by
caught.
the Fizz. Ends up getting that burst onto the Caitlyn. A champion he can still burst down, or he can burst down at this stage in the game a lot better than something like the Talon or the Wukong. And Belveth is there, ends up getting the Lux too.
And that is very balanced side of the Bears, as they
That was
just
a
got
very
two,
good catch.
and
Oh,
they have
another
the
Rift
Herald.
Herald mid. I don't believe Talon will be able to defend this on his own.
Yeah, with the
They're
army
full
there
team.
from the Belveth, really gonna punish this Eagles. There's 5 people mid going to go for that tier 2. There's not much that the Eagles can do to try and stop this push. They
Yeah,
do
it
not
looks
have the potential. And that is going to be a tier 2 gone, and maybe even a kill on the Wukong if he doesn't end up getting out here. Yeah, and there goes Wukong.
So it
Looking
looks like
for the...
Mordekaiser is currently trying to mitigate the damage by also responding by pushing top lane, trying to get some more pressure on that side of the map. The Bears did lose 1, and I believe they lost 2 towers. But it looks like the Bears may gain 1 tower advantage over.
Even with the Bears in that one tower, though, so the Eagles
Does
will be able
look
to secure Drake as they have full Drake prio, and they are not strong enough to fight. And with that, not only will they be able to continue to scale with getting another stack, but they also will be on soul point after this Drake.
Yeah, the top side, even with all the bans that came out from the Bears, the top side is still so strong onto the top side.
So it looks like the Fizz is currently bot lane. Definitely threatening the Caitlyn Lux, who are both very, very squishy, easy to kill champions for Fizz. That's just the thing with Fizz, is that once Fizz gets like 1 or 2 kills, you really just mid-game can't live against him as one of these kind of squishier champs.
And bottom does have to be careful because it looks like the Fizz might back. The Fizz might also try to stay here for a lane gank and surprise the bot lane here.
Yeah, the bot lane on the side of the Eagles has a 40 CS lead onto the Caitlyn. No Mythic on the Caitlyn. This is a huge lead on the side of the bot lane of the Eagles, and even have leads in all the other lanes on the side of the Eagles as well.
Caitlyn does get a headshot off on the tower, doing a little more damage. Looks like the Bears are going to try and take the mid tower. Talon may be able to jump out to escape, but Garen is extremely fast. But Talon is able to just get out by wall hopping enough.
A miss on the ulti by the Fizz, still going in for that.
Oh,
that
Fizz has huge burst damage, able to
burst
dodge
is so fast,
the
and the
Q.
Caitlyn damage is not there.
See, Caitlyn has to be very careful here not to get hit by the Morgana route. Very close. Talon once again trying to escape the the mid lane.
Yeah, Talon trying to push that mid lane to get that tier 1, but is being constantly stopped by various laners on the side of the Eagles. Maybe looking for a play here, going for the Fizz. Not able to connect his ulti, but they do end up killing the Morgana before she's able to get the tower. And there's Bel'Veth, forcing them to walk back into the jungle. They're going to walk right into the Xayah. Might try and burst the Xayah down, and there's the ulti dodging that passive damage and end up killing both of them.
Yeah, with Bel'Veth and Fizz there, it's very hard to deal any damage because although they're theoretically squishy, they kill you faster than you can kill them.
Yeah, Bel'Veth is so far ahead right now. She's just been able to get really good fights and in duels in both the jungle and the lanes.
Let's see.
Yeah, they really extended their lead against this bot lane, using the aggressive Lux Caitlyn lane to get picks. Ends up
Oh, but it
killing.
looks like Garen is going to come from behind. Caitlyn doesn't even notice. Getting ulted. Looks like Garen might actually be able to
Garen
get
is
both
still
of them
going.
here.
Being 4 levels up, Garen can
So
definitely
incredibly
tower dive
powerful.
this.
Just able to completely ignore that tower.
And there's Bel'Veth with her own minions coming in.
See, so this might look very this is very bad. Wukong is going to try and defend the tower. Is unable to catch the Garen out and get the kill. Let's see who on the Eagle side has shutdowns this time around. Looks like
Everyone except Morgana. Yeah, there's
does,
just a huge lead. At 6k at this point on the Eagles. Really playing in close teams, not really splitting, staying close together, which is smart. Don't want to give this Talon and Mordekaiser something to play off of. And there's a kill. The last second Ludensprock onto the Talon ends up knocking him out.
And it does look like Xayah is building Kraken Slayer along with Morgana building Leon here, so they're both building anti-tank. This is because I'm assuming they're relying on Fizz to deal most of the damage to squishies. Bel'Veth looks like she's going to be kind of serving as kind of like a front line, but also attack damage carry kind of champion.
You just have
because
the Bork is
Bork.
just really going to be good against killing the Wukong and the
Yeah,
Mordekaiser.
Garen.
Mordekaiser is going for that Jack Show build, which does make him tankier, but in these team fights, I mean, you're not going to be able to get your ultis out anymore because they really need you for the front line. Ends up ulti the
Looks like
Bel'Veth.
Bel'Veth is in a
maybe
death round, but Bel'Veth will be able to
trading.
kill Mord.
No,
And with the Wukong there, Wukong is not strong enough to get any damage.
Wukong
And they
ends
will
up falling
get the
down too, but they do
Wukong
get the
and
shutdown onto the
top turret.
Bel'Veth. But Bel'Veth was so strong, ended up getting 2 of them there.
Very rough for the Bears here. The Garen is also building anti-armor, so the Mordekaiser, Jack Show is still not even going to be enough.
Yeah,
Unless-
building tankier on this the Mordekaiser isn't great. They have a lot of true damage output with the Xayah, Bel'Veth, and Garen on the side of the Eagles. That building tank probably maybe wasn't the best idea.
And the biggest problem with the Mord building tank this game is that the Bears do not have much AP damage at all with him building tank. And Bel'Veth can just go something like, and I'm like Death's Dance or any other AD armor item will be able to have increased survivability.
That's very true.
And it looks
So it looks
like
like Fizz also has 10 Magi stacks. Isn't that it's 5 per stack, right? So that's 50, am I correct? AP?
Yeah, it is 50 AP on that Megas for this.
I think it tells me.
And it looks
Yeah,
like
so 50, so that's like
the Eagles
70
are
AP.
starting to roam bot, especially since they're on soul point right now. Bears will have to try to maybe go for a steal because them getting soul, especially with Garen is in a super increased movement speed and Fizz just roaming, it'll be hard to stop the Eagles if they get that soul.
Yeah, at this rate, I think winning this game is going to be super tough for the Bears. The Eagles are not playing spread to where picks are easy to get.
And Wukong does
the
end up
damage
falling.
output and the kite is so strong on the side of the Eagles that the Bears just are not able to punish any play they make.
Yeah, it looks like about an 8,000 gold deficit, down 4 dragons. This is very bad for the Bears. The Eagles have been playing this incredibly well. All lanes won except mid lane, which went pretty even, honestly. So it looks like they're just trying to defend this Garen, trying to poke him down so he can't just run straight at them and kill him, but Garen is so fast, it's just really hard to poke him down, Looks like Belveth is currently trying to request Baron. The Eagles will be taking Baron. This looks like a repeat of last game, except with the Eagles and Bears position swap, where the Eagles are going to take the Baron, and they're just going to push all the lanes. Oh, and there's another
That
kill in the
burst
bot
damage from
lane.
the Fizz really coming out, showing there onto the Lux. He does end up falling to the Wukong, but they are able to trade that for the Baron,
And that is
and
huge
that is
for the
huge
Eagle.
for the
Belveth
Eagles.
not only have the regular Baron buff minions, but Belveth also gets her own special Baron buff minions. That will definitely give them increase on pushing power. Looks like they will also try to go for a possible split to further their lead with this Baron. And it'll definitely be very hard for the Bears to defend against this push.
Yeah, the pushing power here on the Eagles is just way too strong. The Wukong getting that kill on the Fizz with the shutdown doesn't isn't as exactly a good trade. The Baron buff is just so strong in the Belveth with that army with the Baron buff. It's so hard to play against. Does end up ulting the Garen, which really is not the greatest move. You end up losing the tower because you cannot, you can't stop it when you're in the
Bears
death
just
row.
don't have the damage to deal with the Belveth or the Garen.
Trying to find a fight on this isolated top lane, but not able to do so. They, oh, maybe even pick. They might be able to pick the Velvet here.
Oh, the Caitlyn ult. Did that
And
heal
they
though?
are able to
That
get
did
the kill
very
on the
little
Belveth,
damage.
which is very good in the Baron buff off of the Belveth there.
So that's 2 shutdowns collected for the Bears. The Bears might still want to try and get this Garen shutdown and the Xayah
They'll
shutdown.
have to be careful though, because it looks like they are trying to push mid, and Fizz is roaming up, maybe able to kill someone being caught out. And Fizz did a huge burst
And
damage, is able to
Fizz
get the kill on the
bursting the
Wukong.
Wukong. Wukong, even with those shutdowns and 2 items,
And
getting
Fizz
bursted
is
down by the
still
Fizz.
going,
Gets
and
a
gets the kill
double
on the
kill.
Talon.
And there's a route onto the Morgana, or by the Morgana onto the Lux.
Yeah,
The
see every
Caitlyn trying to
time.
trade, and Wukong is just not, or Fizz is just not dying.
Yeah, every
Mordekaiser
time
doesn't
Fizz-
have the damage to fight against
Zai
this
roaming
Fizz.
up, and
Fizz,
Fizz is able to
so
get that
much
third kill
damage.
now. And Fizz does not look like
13
Fizz is
and
going to be
3
stopping.
on the Fizz.
And
Fizz
that
goes
is
again. That
4
is 4.
kills.
And then a kill by Garen onto the Lux. They're
And
going to
that
push
is an
these
ace, and
towers
looks like
down.
that
It
will
looks like
probably
this
be the
will
end of the
likely
game.
be the game.
Alright, so anyway, so Fizz getting every kill also gives him significantly more AP, makes him harder to shut down, makes him do more damage. Looks like this will be a game for the Eagles. Right at the Bears' Nexus. The Garen's is absolutely the Fizz is absolutely demolishing the Bears in their own base. Looking like gonna try and end by just hitting the Nexus. Down 2 inhibs the Bears.
Oh, the Talon is going in.
Talon trying to fight back.
Oh, Talon is able to kill
Does
the
end up picking the
Morgana.
Morgana, but does get traded out by the Belveth. And the Lux ulti trying to clear that wave in the mid lane, but it doesn't look like it's going to be effective. And she just disappears. Just absolutely disappears by the Fizz. The Fizz just so much damage. And this is going to be the game. They do not have what it takes to fight against this Fizz. This Fizz just ends up making everybody he sees explode. And that will be the end of the game.
Already very good game, so that makes it 1-1. Very tied, so we'll be right back with game 3, the tiebreaker.
Yeah, you really see it there. Early in the game, that Belveth was super strong.
Alrighty, so who's the first band? First band is going to be a Volibear
Looks
band.
like the Bears
I
are.
think the Bears seem to be just repeating bans, scared of this top side. And there's the Ezreal ban, scared of that burst now that the bot lane swapped out again.
Yep.
So don't want to play against the Ezreal. The Ezreal was super strong in that first game. Good showing out by the ADC.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the Bears are also blue side again, and just saying that it makes me realize how ironic is the Bears keep banning Volley Bear because that's the bear guy. So
That's a very
yeah,
funny joke,
pretty
Tom. Thanks for
funny, huh?
saying that.
That was that was hilarious. Thanks for
That's
telling
strong.
And
me.
the second man will be that Vi
And
that
there's that Vi that you're
is
scared
very
of,
strong. And
especially when the Vi was combined with that bot side in the first game. That was a lethal combination. End up really punishing that bot side. So not
That's true.
surprised
So
to see
the
that.
Ezreal and Vi bands. The Bears do indeed have a very good
looks like they're
Ezreal player and a very good Vi player. That first game, the Ezreal and Vi were just so strong. Um,
it looks like the Bears are able to pick up that
looks
Yone
like
that
they're
they have been trying to get for the last couple of games. So maybe that will be a very big game
Yeah, that
changer in
was a
this
go-to
game.
ban for the two previous games by the Eagles. So leaving that Yone open is immediately secured by the Bears, and they do pick that Garen again.
yeah.
Maybe the phase rush again, but I would like to see the Conqueror. I do think that is a better rune overall.
And we'll have to see if the Eagles were right in deciding that Twitch was a bigger threat than Yone, because I don't believe the Bears have a dedicated Twitch player, but they do have someone who's very, very, very skilled at Yone. So we'll see if that was a worthwhile trade for the band, letting the Bears get Yone in exchange for making sure Fizz isn't picked.
Yeah, a repeat of the Garen Belveth. It's
Wait,
interesting, but I don't know. What do you think about the Yone's repeat banning instead of the Bears repeat banning instead of selecting to ban these threatening champions that have been played in previous games?
I think this game, I think the main thing that got the Belveth ahead wasn't the champion itself. I think the problem is that the jungler walked on Vision, the Bears jungler walked on Vision, and then the Garen was also had Prio, and Wukong tried to duel Belveth in the river when Garen had lots of Prio in top lane, and Garen was just able to roam down because they had Vision of him, and then that gave Belveth an early lead, and of course, getting that far behind on jungler, like dying on your first clear, it's very bad because now the enemy jungler gets more farm, they get more kills, you don't get to gank early. It's very, very impactful. I don't think that the repeat banning of the same champs is that bad because I think the problem wasn't the champions last game. I think the problem was just one or two early game plays. Once again, they have Garen, Belveth, and Fizz. I think the Eagles think that last game went so well for them that they want to try and do it again. I think the Fizz thinks that they'll be able to counter the Yone. I think.
Yeah, picking the Malphite again into the Garen is, despite what it may seem, is not a good matchup. You do lose that as the Malphite. Malphite relies on poking out with his Q and being able to run away with that speed buff he gets, but Garen is not really affected by that speed loss. He will, especially in the later stages of the game, be able to catch up, and he does have that true damage that offsets that armor.
Well, not even that. Like, you don't even need the true damage to offset the armor. Garen's E also makes it so when you hit 6 or more ticks of damage on his E, it actually shreds, I believe it's 30% armor. And that's a lot of armor. Like, items that are specifically designed to shred armor and deal with tanks like Malphite shred 30% armor. And they are.
Yeah, so potentially stacking that with a Black Cleaver, getting a lot of armor pen onto that Garen, which really offsets that Malphite's able to be effective, especially given that he's going to be a team fighting comp with the Amumu Malphite Yone. Morgana, huge team fight potential, but the Malphite and the Amumu are not going to be as effective here because there is a Garen Belveth and really hybrid damage here on the side of the
Well,
Eagles.
also, the Eagles they have Varus, and Varus is both strong AD and AP. Varus is strong AD, AP, crit, lethality. Varus is pretty versatile, honestly, when it comes to builds. And AP Varus, despite AD being the one that usually deals with the tanks, Varus specifically builds AD when he wants to be a hyper tank killer because he does max health damage and missing health damage with his ultimate and his W and Q when used in combination with each other.
But
So Malphite won't be able to do anything against this Varus if the Varus goes AP, and that's even more plausible because with the Garen and Belveth, they do a ton of AD damage.
and that's a very
What do you think
interesting
about?
Mord
Is
pick.
this Belveth support?
Or it could be Mordekaiser support. Mordekaiser maybe support, maybe pull with that's
Yeah,
CC.
actually, maybe Mordekaiser, because playing into something like the Anamumu, Mordekaiser support with the Peel and being able to take off with the Yone, being able to take someone out of the fight. that is your team is really reliant on to do damage,
I
because
can
your
see
damage
that.
threats on the side of the Bears are the Zerion, and being able to take a single one of them out of the fight makes it really tough to win against the high damage comp on the side of the Eagles.
It's a,
I see also Mordekaiser's has pretty good base numbers, pretty good level 1. So I'm thinking that level 1 might be extremely hard for the Bears, especially because they have Zeri. Zeri is a pretty, Zeri's a pretty late, Zeri is a pretty late game champion. She needs to scale. They did change her recently-ish, where she has to try and be more greedy early, take more fights. She has a little less range now. She is one of the more difficult to play ADCs in the game, but she's incredibly good at kiting. We'll see if Zeri is able to dodge all the skill shots from the Fizz, Varus, and Garen. Promise that Garen is also so fast. Belveth has dashes. Fizz has such good mobility and decent range with his ultimate. Varus just does so much damage from far away. And Mordekaiser, if Mordekaiser gets close to Zeri, Zeri can just get ultimated. And even if Mordekaiser is theoretically the support, I think Mordekaiser still can do a ton of damage to Zeri. And even if he doesn't, Zeri still is out of the fight for that fight.
I
Yeah,
think
I do.
I think overall, I do like the draft of the Bears a little bit better. I think they definitely do have a very, very strong team fight with that Amumu Malphite Yone combo, especially and with the Xavier Morgan, the ability to have very good dive and mobility. And on the side of the Eagles, even though they do have some good strong bruisers, I feel like they do lack just a bit of like a main tank. As we saw last game, they had the Garen going or the phase rush. It'll be interesting to see the amount of the Mordekaiser can maybe go tank, but their team just doesn't seem very well put together. It doesn't seem like they have
Yeah,
any like strength really. So it'll be interesting to see how they want to play this game
yeah.
out.
I kind of disagree. I think the Eagles draft is fine, given that they are running two bruiserish characters, and they only have two damage threats really on the side of the Bears with the Zerion. So not running a full-on front line isn't a huge deal. I think it's more of trying to deal with the engage potential on the side of the Bears, because the Amumu Malphite is super scary. Both have engage potential, and you can't just look out for one. You don't have anything to really stop or kite it, so you just have to be vigilant and keep an eye out.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right. And we did see last game that even without like a super dedicated frontliner, the Eagles were still able to get Garen and Belveth and Fizz and just absolutely just roam around the map, get picks, roam on the enemy. Even with the Zaya started doing it, they're just able to roam around the map. They have great coordination, able to pick out anyone who's out of position. It's going to be very important that the support gets a ton of vision this game and vision control and makes
Yeah,
it
I
sure that
agree.
like they don't get
We've
picked.
seen in the previous two games how consequential the jungle ganks are on snowballing a lead and really winning your team the game by getting those laners able to be strong in fights. So playing around vision is super important. Both supports need to make sure that they keep the rivers warded and their jungles warded, so that there's no really play potential there on the by the junglers.
Ready, so we'll be in the game right about now. Once we get through the loading screen, that's when we're gonna go.
What do you think of the? I think there's potential for lane ganks on the side of the Amumu, especially given that we saw it on the Vi earlier. They'd walk up into the bush and play and wait for the extend.
Yeah,
I think lane ganks are a huge potential here, especially when there's a Varus Mordekaiser who,
yeah.
given that it's a Zeri early, can probably fight and will push up. So playing a lane gank of Amumu might not be the worst
Yeah.
decision.
And see, I think lane ganks are extremely dangerous. And now that you say it, I'm actually thinking, I'm like, well, here's the thing. Mordekaiser, when he goes top lane, is extremely hard to gank because when Mordekaiser, has his ultimate ability, if you try and gank him, turn a 1v2 into a 2v2, he's just going to send one of you to the death realm anyway, right? But when he's a support, he's going to turn a 3v2 into a 2v1. So you would still have a numbers advantage if you tried to gank a Mordekaiser when he's in the bot lane.
Yeah, the only thing about that is that in the 1v1 situation, Mordekaiser can try to force out a trade, which is tougher in that 3v2 when you're probably being in a situation where you're attempting to escape rather than trade, and then Mordekaiser will now have a duel instead of a three. He won't be fighting multiple groups, it'll be an isolated duel. So you might have trade potential there, but it is uh, much more dangerous for the Varus, who can't really fight against any 2v1 early game.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like both teams are looking out for an invade from the other team.
Yeah.
Once again, neither team's going to invade. Both trying to just play their lanes.
Yeah, I think that's smart. The invade on the Bears was potentially could be punishing if they had both Zeri and Yon there with the Morgana Q. Those routes are still like 1.5 seconds level 1, which is a pretty long route given that that's like above average already at level 1. Just the amount of CC on the Bears lineup is really going to be what I think decides this game. If they're able to punish and pin down these the carry champions on the side of the Eagles.
The chain CC is crazy for us.
I see.
That'll be interesting to see how the bot on the side of Eagles will be able to play, especially with this because they have the Mord of Varus. Even though Varus does have that Q, Mord is very short range, and it'll be interesting to see if they will deal with this poke this game.
I'll just make 2 guarantees.
I think there's already some really early fights here. Garen getting the level 2 advantage just like last game and trying to get some good damage out early.
Yeah, as we were talking about, that Q on the Malphite wasn't able to give him the potential to run away there from the Garen. The Garen is fast enough, especially with that phase rush, to run after the speed boosted Malphite. So it's going to be tough. And even an Ignite Q here on the Garen is enough to kill Malphite. Well, I don't think so, because I mean, it only does about 75 damage early because it scales with levels. So.
Oh, that's true. Oh, especially because the Malphite has Corrupting Potion, able to sustain earlier. Looks like bot lane is pushing towards the Eagles. Mid lane looks pretty in the middle, and then top lane is pushing towards the Bears. Looks like Garen is warding.
That was a good one, Tom.
Moves jungle, trying to avoid those top lane ganks, especially because he's playing more up.
Yeah, the pushed in lane here on the side of the bot lane was not exactly what I expected to see. I guess you do have the double range, which makes it hard for the Mordekaiser to play.
Yeah.
But you would think that the Varus and Garen threat onto that Zeri would be scary. And there's the first blood onto the Malphite in the top lane by the Garen. With flash ignite Q, and that was able to do it. Again, this whole game will be tough for the Malphite trying to fight into a Garen.
Okay, it looks like the Eagles, their Fizz doesn't have flash and their Garen doesn't have flash. And the problem is that they did get kills in exchange for those flashes.
There's a TP by the Malphite in the top lane trying to not miss that crashed wave, and then there was Ignite used both mid laners used their Ignite, and there's a flash on the in the jungle by the Inhibitor.
Looks like they were able to get that kill up on that Yone. It's a good gank by Belwith, comboing that CC with the Fizz, E, and Q.
Yeah, 3-0 here for the Eagles right now. It's not looking super great. 2 kills on the Fizz. The Fizz last game was a huge problem.
Yeah.
And this game it might be a huge problem. I think potentially they should have tried to ban the Fizz in the draft phase. They saw the previous game how good that Fizz was at making people disappear from the champions on the map. So.
Yeah, I think the same. So it looks like Amumu is going to try and kill the Fizz. Amumu's a tank.
And it looks like...
Ooh, and dodges the knockup.
Young
will try and go in there. He does not end up getting it. And there's a tower shot chasing him down.
It's like this Fizz E is really good to help escape these ganks by the Amumu. And they have had 2 failed ganks. Looks like Fizz can just escape very easily, making these ganks not worthwhile.
Yeah.
Alright, so
Really,
like top
if
lane,
you're-
Garen's going for another aggressive play here. Really just trying to prevent the Malphite from CSing.
Yeah, Garen really has to be playing super aggressive because he has such an advantage in that lane matchup versus the Malphite. Yeah, you see Fizz already has Lost Chapter, which is a 1,300 gold item at 5 minutes is pretty good. And Garen already has his Berserkers, starting Berserkers again over going for something like Heartbound X, which I still think is better. If you can get Heartbound X and boots, that gives a lot more movement speed, especially when you're trying to take those fights, and it gives more damage onto that.
That's true, but that's only when you're fighting. I think the Berserker speeds are also good for when you're in lane and you're not able to auto anything. you can get to lane faster. So since Garen doesn't have teleport, it makes it so he can get to lane faster. So the Malphite having teleport is less of an advantage.
Yeah, I still think, given the lane matchup, that Hardbound Backs would have been a little bit more advantageous for the Garen over the Berserker's Greaves. You're not looking to farm or try and
Guess that's true.
run. You really want to take these fights just because of how advantageous they are for you.
So Garen does have ultimate, so Malphite gets below a third health. Probably not going to last much longer than that.
It also looks like Fizz is roaming up, maybe for a tower dive if they were to push the waves. Looks like Fizz is going to look
There
to
is an
R.
ulti, does land on the Malphite, and they will end up tower diving in with that double ulti.
Garen can barely
Almost got
survive in
traded
that
back
shield.
onto the Garen, but the tower just doesn't come through on that
And
last
it's like,
shot.
as a trade, the Bears will be able to get the Drake as the Fizz roamed up, and they now have Pile to take the Drake.
So let's see what the Fizz bought. Honestly, maybe I would have thought the Fizz might have sold, instead of buying Lost Chapter, maybe sold Doran's Ring. I think that might have been enough gold to buy Medjai's. If the Fizz got an early Medjai's or gets Medjai's at all this game, we saw how that's going to turn out last game. This is going to be extremely hard to kill and do a ton of damage.
I'd say I like the pick of the Lost Chapter on the Fizz. Even though the Fizz is up a lot of kills and has a chance to snowball, if Fizz did go for the early Medjai's and end up dying a few times, I definitely put the Fizz behind. I think this makes it so the Fizz is able to more safely have just damage that the Fizz will always have. So I think it's a little bit less snowball, but I feel like it's a little bit more safe and consistent for the Fizz here.
Yeah, I think this is really tough for the Yone to play into. He can't really hit knockups because the Fizz just dodges them and is easily able to trade damage back. I think maybe Yone should have tried to play a safer rune set, like going Fleet so you get that heal and speed, trying to avoid the Fizz rather than going for that duel with the
And I'd like
tempo.
to probably see the Yone back here, even though the Yone could have an outplay potential with the E. The Fizz can just R in like he is now, and looks like the Yone is gonna die.
Does try to respond, but that Fizz did have his dodge up by hopping onto his pitchfork. No connect onto the Morgana root, and does end up taking quite a bit of damage there, but it is traded back by the Zeri auto-attacking the Varus.
And it looks like they are taking that Herald, which we know Beveth will definitely appreciate, to get not only the core, but also those minions that can help with pushing power.
Some nice vision there by the side of the Bears in that bot lane. They have both the bot bushes warded and that top river bush warded. However, as I was talking about the threat of lane ganks, Mordekaiser does have a ward by the tower that he watches for both roams down towards the bottom bushes. Yeah, really not able to duel that Fizz. I would have liked to see a Fleet Footwork to try and mitigate the loss you'll face in that
Looks like
type of
Yo
lane.
might be able to
Oh,
kind
Yo
of kill
might
on
be
the
able to kill
The
Fizz.
shutdown?
And
Oh,
ends up dying to the Fizz.
barely able to win
Looks
there.
like Fizz. Does Fizz
like
maybe have Triumph
Volley
there?
might be able to get
Yeah,
the
it
pick
looks
on the
like
board,
Trish
and
might
maybe
have
the Varus.
Triumph.
Oh,
A
Varus
root
coming out.
by the Varus ulti onto the Zeri in her tower when she flashed in, trying to pick off the Varus, ends up dying because got rooted in her tower. Amumu trying to queue towards that Fizz, trying to get that shutdown, ends up getting it. Yes, 700 gold towards the Amumu. It does use ulti, but there's a Belvet there. Amumu will not be able to fight that, not without ulti. Belvet will be able to get that trade kill onto the Amumu. Overall, I think that was better for the Amumu than it was for the Belveth. It does end up getting that 700 gold on the Fizz. You would have preferably liked to see that on a champion like Yone or Zeri, but you can't complain that you got it.
Let's see. Amumu still does pretty decent damage with Sunfire and maybe Demonic. Here, it also might definitely act as a front line for the team. Both Amumu and Malphite will be very, very tanky late game, assuming that the Bears are able to scale up and really try and take those objectives. They are up one dragon, which is more than they got last game. But it does look like the Eagles are getting a gold lead and experience lead, almost up 3,000 gold. And the Fizz is 4-1-1. It doesn't have any Dark Seal stacks, which is good for the Bears, but it looks like the Fizz might be able to get them. That's the thing with Fizz, is that just able to get those stacks so easily, very aggressive, very, very hard to kill champion.
Yeah, there's another duel in that mid lane. These short trades really are not going in favor for the Yone. I think potentially even trying to swap these lanes so that the Fizz is in a face up against um, the Malphite instead of the Yone would be more beneficial.
Looks like the current state of the game. Looks like top lane is up by 2 kills. Jungle is about even. The Fizz is up quite a bit in mid lane, and bot lane is also quite even.
Yeah, those trades go pretty well for the Garen if he didn't take that tower shot there. He does still have that ignite ulti pressure, so realistically, any type of HP lead that even HP trades are still beneficial for Garen.
Looks like there is a fight on the bot side of the map.
So the Mordekaiser ult does come out on the Morgana. The spell shield does not block it. Either because it wasn't used
Looks
or
like
because
Belva
it
is
just
still
doesn't
looking
work that
to
way.
possibly get a kill or two.
This does look like a good team fight for the Bears, though.
And
Ooh.
Belva does manage to trade for the Morgana, which is about an even trade, but they do
So-
lose. Oh, Fizz's bot lane, just a threatening presence there in that bush. Amumu doesn't have any magic resist, so Amumu, Fizz is no, he's still a threat to the Amumu.
Mm-hmm. So Malphite has a pretty big wave pushing the Garen here. Garen doesn't want to try and fight in that wave because he knows he's going to take a ton of damage.
It looks like Amumu is on the Drake. He's there, is roaming up to help take it, and Belveth is going topside, so there will be no threat to take that Drake. The ulti onto the Yone.
Could this be another? Ooh.
Huge burst there. Miss on the Q. Fizz is so strong.
Fizz is extremely strong. Let's see how many Dark Seal stacks Fizz has. Let's see, up to 2.
Oh, it looks like he just
don't-
bought the item, got the 2. It's likely to stack more as this game goes on because this Fizz is just able to burst really anybody right now.
Decent poke on
Looks
the
like a
bars.
Herald dropped in the top lane for the Garen, trying to snowball the Garen's lead. The lane you're winning, and that looks like it will get 2 plates.
Alright, looks like Belveth might be going back to their jungle, farming Raptors, making sure to snowball the gold lead by making sure to farm. Meanwhile, Malphite's just trying to hold the Garen back in any way possible from just getting more of those plates. Malphite does have teleport, probably going to back in order to try
Shoved
and...
that wave so fast that it crashes that the Malphite cannot back. This Garen is just putting so much pressure on the Malphite to stay in this lane, and Malphite really needs to back in this situation.
So the Garen is the one backing right now. Belveth is currently taking blue buff, Mordekaiser's shadowing to make sure it doesn't get invaded. Meanwhile, there's another fight mid lane. Yone is actually 2 levels down, and with Fizz as strong as he is right now, all Yone can hope to do is maybe pick up a couple shutdowns and snowball. Yone is incredibly strong from behind even, because when Yone gets even 1 or 2 shutdowns, that's when Yone starts to take over the game.
Yeah, you do see the Kraken instead of the Immortal here on the Belvet this time. I guess you're trying to kill the Amumu and the Malphite because you can take a carry out of the fight.
Besides that, it also looks like Yone is building a shield though. And so, there's another fight bot lane. Zeri does get ulted by Mordekaiser. It becomes a 3v2 because of the Lankick from Amumu. Looks like Mordekaiser does fall here. Maybe trying to continue this onto the Varus. Can they kill him? They can. Double kill onto the Amumu.
Yeah, those are the fights you're looking for, trying to get those gank trades, which are really what has been shown off. They're going for trying to get the Herald here to try and offset that. But that was a good trade there for the Bears.
The game is slowly coming back in favor of the Bears.
But this is like because
the gold
Amumu was
is
bot
actually
side,
less.
Belveth will go and take that Herald top side. Now possibly could go for trying to Herald and just get rid of the top turret entirely.
Yeah, and invade here by the Belva. There might be a fight in the jungle. Amumu going towards his wolves, on his wolves, while Belva is taking the blue. And a miss on the ulti by the Fizz. Fizz playing super aggressive. And
Morgana's
does end up
able to
taking
hit
down the
root.
Yone. This
Looks like
looks like it
Fizz
will
will-
be traded back. Oh,
This
Just
is
barely
edge,
getting
but looks
some
like
on the Fizz.
Belveth was able to trade.
Belveth is going
Might
for
go
the
for the
Amumu. So
kill.
is Garen. The flash. Does
Not
Garen
as
do
much
enough damage
damage
fast
as you
enough
would
to not die
expect.
to the tower?
That true damage does so much, and the true damage ends up taking down the Amumu. And then the Herald plays mid, looking to take that tier 2 as well.
Herald, I don't
The
think Zeri
Zeri,
can
though,
defend this
is
alone.
quite strong, and Belva just stood in tower range.
Very interesting play by the Belveth.
Really looking to play around the Zeri here. Yoan has just been punished so hard by the Fizz that Zeri is their big damage threat, and really the one you're looking to kill on the side of the Eagles. Punishing that Zeri would really put the team fight heavily in their favor.
And with this Zeri being their main damage on the team right now, the Bears will definitely need to try to keep the Zeri safe, especially with this Fizz in the game, able to possibly one-shot the Zeri very quickly.
I see Morgana might have to be careful about Fizz roaming down at this point.
Yeah, there's Garen is going for that Mortal Reminder second. Common build on Garen, just trying to stack attack speed items that do give good stats that the Garen can use. And you are getting that Zanya's onto the Fizz. Does realize the threat potential on this engage, on pinning him down before he's able to get his burst and dodge out, which is really the only thing that can threaten to kill the Fizz.
Yeah, Fizz's ability to dodge abilities using his E, I believe is what it is, makes it so can't get attacked for a couple seconds. That is essentially doubled because of Zanya.
Looks like this might be a fight over the Drake here. TP in by Malphite.
And that's R from Zeri. Can Zeri just absolutely shred them in the Drake pit? Huge team fight for the Bears.
And it looks like the Mord,
that's a triple kill for the Zeri.
And as we talked about earlier in the game, this Mord
And
going to
another kill?
support instead of being in the top lane with his ult, especially his ult does not get as much value as he isn't able to find a quick pick or solo kill in that death roam, which practically makes it the fight a 4v4, but they're down to tank.
Moore did take the Zeri out of the fight for a bit there, but it was too late. Zeri already got 2 picks prior to going into the death roam. Really need to look to get that out earlier. The Belveth and the Fizz might have been able to do, and Varus Fizz might be able to do more there in a fight without the Zeri there. So with that fight, you saw the gold actually swing back in favor of the Bears getting their first lead of this game.
Very true. One thing that the Bears have to be very careful about is if Fizz gets this kill on the Zeri, that's 1,000 gold.
I'm not sure like the Runes build second from the Zeri. You might be a strong team fighter, but with this Mordekaiser that you just saw from the last fight, he is going to look to ult you and take you out of that fight. Runins really is not effective in the death realm. I'd like to see a Phantom Dancer that gives like hiding ability, allows you to retain more HP while you're in that death realm, and maybe even end up killing the Mordekaiser faster in the death realm with the bonuses it gives when attacking.
Alright, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Phantom Dancer, third item, it does look like they're going for Infinity Edge, which gives a ton of damage on crits. So now it looks like the Eagles might actually be going for 3-man pick on the Malphite. But Malphite is going to back off the second he sees that Garen. So Belveth might be going for either an invade or a dive on the Malphite, depending on how strong Garen and Belveth are combined.
Yeah.
Trying to pick the Varus mid lane. Morgana does hit Q and W. But it is not enough to get the kill on the Varus, but it is enough to do enough to make him back. Looks like there is going to be another fight mid lane. Morgana's getting run down by this Fizz, but hits a good root.
Yeah, Fizz damage is impressive. Even with the shield, did a good portion of the Morgana's health. And the Eagles are just constantly looking to fight here. These the poke here by the Bears really punishing the Eagles stepping up into the enemy jungle.
Looks like Fizz is backing. Looks like
he's back to engage onto the Fizz double ulti. Almost end up picking him, and yes, the Q by the Amumu lands, killing the Fizz, giving him another 150 gold shutdown. Really got to watch where you're back in there. You really risky given that you didn't have vision of the enemy jungle. You are in a line of sight of enemy vision. Just really kind of misplayed there.
Honestly, one mistake I keep seeing Garen make, Malphite keeps trying to Q, but you see Malphite Q slows, right? And that's Malphite's main form of poke. But Garen could just Q, and that would cleanse the slowing effect from Malphite, which allows him to just run right up to the Malphite and just start spinning on him. Fortunately for the Malphite, he is still able to act as a tank for his team. He finished his Jack Show, which is an incredibly good team fight item. With the Amumu and Malphite both having Jack Show, and those extended team fights, they'll be extremely powerful.
Yeah, the Amumu going for the Drain tank build, building into the Demonic Embrace now, trying to make himself more of a damage tank, so that they're not really reliant on only Zion and Zeri. That way, even if one of them gets taken out by the Mordekaiser, that Amumu is able to still put some damage in those
That's
fights.
true. And I see normally Fizz would be able to completely ignore the tanks and just run straight to the back line and just destroy the Zeri or try to kill Yon as fast as possible. But now with Amumu dealing more damage, it makes it so Fizz has to try and either avoid Amumu more or be safer with his engagements.
Yeah, the Malphite freezing that wave top lane with his own body, given that he's tanky enough to do that. At this stage in the game, it's not as good as it could be, but it's still nice. And Fizz ends up taking out the
still a level down, a couple kills down, some CS down, and still trying to fight the Fizz. The Bears are hiding on a control ward, trying to see if they can somehow get priority for this Drake. The problem is the bot lane is currently pushing into them, and all of the Eagles are already currently there. Malphite has TP, but is pushing top lane tower.
He did manage to take that top tower, so them roaming down bot lane isn't great.
Looks like there will be a fight over Drake here, it seems.
So Malphite's backing.
Looks like
Yeah, without that threat from the Malphite, they're going in, and that is an
Mord
ulti
just-
right onto the onto the Amumu. Get him out of that fight. That's also an option, removing the CC threat, and then there's a force flash over the wall.
Yeah, that's definitely a really big benefit of the Mord in the support role. Mord can definitely just ult Amumu and just deny any hard CC or the opportunity for a sealer. So that's definitely a good ult by Mord.
It also prevents smite, you see. See, I didn't even see the angle for that. I was thinking it was more of like a lane cheese pick, but actually I see now it's more of a jungle cheese pick, because now, although most CC like stuns, silences, roots, they don't prevent you from casting smite, Mordekaiser's Death Realm, I believe, does actually remove the dragon, because the Death Realm is actually like a completely different map, so the dragon just doesn't spawn on like that map from like a technical level. So that does make it so that Mordekaiser just completely remove Amumu's ability to steal dragons. Anytime the Bears want to secure a dragon or any form of other objective, they're going to have to either kill the jungler and then hope Mordekaiser doesn't ult Amumu and then coin flip the objective, or just kill both Mordekaiser and Belva.
Yeah, if you're on the Eagles here, Zeri is the real problem. You really have to look as that Fizz being the damage threat that is able to take out those carries early in the fight. You have to look to kill or to burst that Zeri with an ulti.
Malphite is 5 levels up on the Mordekaiser, yet is still very scared, probably, of the enemy team potentially roaming on him when he tries to pick a low-level target, which is very, very justified because Varus and Velvet are very close by. Looks like Fizz is still bot side, while Amumu, Yon, and Morgana are currently pushing the bot wave out.
Looks like the Eagles might try to go for the Baron as they saw them bot, and it looks like they'll be doing just that. It looks like the Bears do have vision, so they'll be trying to go up as soon as they can to see if they can contest this Baron.
Mordekaiser does not have ult up this time around, so Amumu might be able to steal it if he gets there fast enough. Unfortunately,
Huge
not fast
ulti
enough.
combo there by the Malphite Amumu. Oh, CCing for the enemy team. Zeri's able to just fight at the back there, picking
huge
off
fight
one
for the
by
Bears.
one
The Eagles.
the team of the Eagles. And there go, they all fall. Zeri flashes over the wall, and that is an ace there by the Bears. Huge fight, ends up killing so many of them.
I see. So even though the Eagles won the objective, they lost the fight. And although they still got 300 gold per member, which is a large amount of gold, they didn't get any ability to push lanes. And now the Bears are able to freely push every single lane. Got a ton of kills, so they got a ton of gold from that. They did lose Amumu and Malphite, but I think that's a worthwhile trade for them. They are even in Drake still.
I think one of the problems on the side of the Eagles now is most of their kills are concentrated on the top side map on the Garen, Belveth, and Fizz. And you know that's good because they are good carries. That does mean that they're lacking some damage in the ADC role and the Mord. So it might be hard to kill this Malphite and Mumu because of that lack of damage there.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that's extremely dangerous for the Bears is that since all their kills are concentrated on the Zeri, it's normally very good to have kills, concentrated on one person. Since items scale off of each other, it's very, very good to have a lot of gold on one person because then their items scale harder than, let's say, having 2 items across 2 people. The problem is that if Mordekaiser or Fizz is able to kill or just in any way suppress the Zeris, basically the Bears' biggest form of damage, so it's very dangerous for the Bears. If Fizz is able to get a shutdown on the Zeri, that's also extremely bad.
Fizz does not have ulti, so killing the Zeri is going to be tough. And there's the ulti by the Garen, and Garen ends up falling to the Zeri, but that is huge for the Fizz, getting 1,000 gold off that Zeri. Just by, comboing the Garen ulti with your burst.
This is still anyone's game. The Bears and the Eagles are pretty even in gold. There's only about a 0.8 gold deficit, which might sound like a lot, but keep in mind that's only about like 2 kills. They're even in dragons. And although the Eagles did take one more Baron than the Bears did, then they still do not gain anything from that because they lost the Baron buff almost immediately.
Yeah, the Bears here still have they lost their gold lead, but the concentration of the gold on the Fizz, it might give them the bonus of those items. But I don't know, Fizz really just is so reliant on trying to pick off that Zeri that the whole team will fall apart if Zeri is able to be peeled well by her 2 tanks.
I see Drake is spawning right now. Drake is up, and the Bears do look like they're winning this team fight. There's no Fizz, no Mordekaiser.
Yeah, Fizz really overextended in that fight. Kind of led to the death of his other teammates that went in there to try and back him up.
And that is definitely the danger of having the kills concentrated on one person. Fizz being their main damage carry with their team being more of a helping to support. And with the Fizz dying there, they just don't have much kill pressure to try to find a kill on this area.
Yeah, both teams face the same problem, is that their kills are concentrated on one character. However, even if Zeri dies, someone like Amumu now is able to do damage. However, if Fizz dies, the team fight just falls apart on the side of the Eagles. They can't kill the Zeri. Zeri will just be able to run them down. Whereas if they can't kill the Fizz, then it's not as big of a deal, because as long as it's not without ulti, it can't really burst the backline as well. And the peel is so strong with the Amumu Malphite. Not to mention the Morgana shield mitigating any type of CC you can try to get on that Zeri. So Zeri is a tough kill in this matchup.
Yeah, right. Also, the Bears are currently on Soul Point. They have 1 Infernal Dragon, 1 Cloud Dragon, and they also have a Chemtech Dragon. Chemtech Soul is pretty strong. It's especially going to be strong on this Malphite and this Amumu, because as they get lower, they're going to deal more damage, and they're going to take less damage, and on tanks, they're going to be able to live better on those low health percents. It's also pretty good on Young because he has Immortal Shield Bow, and the Immortal Shield Bow keeps you at lower health for more time because it gives you a shield when you get to low health. Ultimately, I think the Chemtech Soul will be extremely good for the Bears in this team comp. That is if they get it. But it does look like they are 1 Drake up. So, next.
Baron looks like it's going to spawn within a minute. I got to play around that top side so that the Baron, because the Baron is the most consequential objective. If the Bears manage to get that, it is likely going to be GG. And looks like they are going to pick off the Mordekaiser. Huge ulti there by the Yone, picking off the Mordekaiser before he's able to finish that blast gun jump and killing the Flash Velvet. engaged by the Malphite onto the backline. Malphite is super tanky now, not able to do anything. The Garen just dies in the middle there. And Fizz also will fall. Cannot get his burst out onto the Zeri. He attempted to kill him, and that is 4 dead on the side of the Eagles. Just tanking the tower on the Amumu.
They might not be able to take the
Trying to
tower
take
'cause they
that.
don't have that bonus minion damage. So they'll have to wait for the wave to push this turret.
Yeah, it might have been smarter to attempt to wait for or to clear the wave and get it up there before trying to take that tower. You would have saved HP.
Either way, unable to trade a kill back. The Eagles are having a very hard time with suppressing the Bears here. The Bears look like they're going to take the mid inhib and maybe try and back off, either force Baron or try and take other objectives and push other lanes around the map. With that mid inhib gone, the Eagles are going to have to definitely try and just focus those waves, because now they have so many things to worry about. Maybe Malphite will TP and then attack their turrets. Maybe anyone else can also just backdoor them. The problem is just for the Eagles is that they need to start winning these huge team fights. The problem is just that Zeri is just doing such a good job at just keeping her distance. The Amumu and Malphite are doing a fantastic job at peeling for the Zeri. It is incredibly hard for the Fizz and the Bel'Veth and the Garen to get on the Zeri because of the CC that Malphite and Amumu bring to the table.
Yeah, it's this is gonna be. I don't know if the Eagles are really gonna be able to come back here. They might not. They don't have a significant gold deficit, but the comp,
Side.
the draft from the Bears is just so strong. You really can't do anything. You cannot get on top of the Zeri. You might be able to kill a Morgana, but without killing the Zeri, there is just no potential to win these fights. The combo from Malphite and Amumu, Ian Yon and Zeri is still so threatening, even without the Morgana there.
I see. Well, this is a good team fight for the Bears because even if they lose Baron, it's going to be incredibly hard for the Eagles to push the wave out with those supers. And it looks like they don't even have to worry about that because the Eagles don't even finish Baron this time around. The Bears are able to react fast enough. And once again, not losing a single member after the Morgana got picked earlier.
That fight, they just went straight for the Mordekaiser so you couldn't take anybody out of the fight, and then ended up ignoring the Varus. The Varus just did absolutely nothing. Just negative damage. He's autoed the entire time and not only Malphite and Amumu and just nothing happened. This is going to be the game, and the Bears will take this, winning them the series 2-1.
Well, okay. Great job, everybody. Extremely well played game. So I know we already kind of talked about this a little bit, Charles. Josiah, what do you guys think was the main deciding factor in that game?
I would say the main